news. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Friday. Friday, my friends. That means you have hit the end of the week, and we're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon. But we got a sound effect for that one. Friday! Indeed. All right. Yeah. Glad you're here. Glad I'm back. I feel like I was gone for a week. It was only one day. I left yesterday. I got back this morning. Daggum. I've been to the far side of the world and back.
Have you quarantined yourself from being around CNN?
Oh, see, okay.
Like,
see, you're going to do that? All right.
Do I need to be in the other studio then?
You're fine. I wore a mask and got inoculated. It's all good.
That's fine.
No, they were actually great. I enjoyed it. That's my second time, and I may be going back up here real soon. But yeah, that was a great night on CNN. Thank you to all of you Rightside ruffians who watched, and some of you who tweeted or texted about it. So appreciate you. I'll tell you more about that later. In the meantime, we got a show, man. I do believe that coming up here in a little while, our friend Brian Dawson, who runs 1819 News, is going to be in studio. So we'll have Brian Dawson with us, just hanging out for a while, shooting the breeze, talking through the dippers. And then at 4 p.m., beginning of hour number 3, you got JP on sports, because JP is indeed a guru on sports, and there's apparently a few things to talk about in sports world right now. So yes, JP on sports, beginning hour number 3. And then I still got a triple dipper, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, oh yeah, trusted agents. What am I talking about? Well, who's your trusted agent for news? Who do you go to for news and information? And there's different kinds. There's actual news, like report the news, and then there's opinion. Who do you go to? Now, a lot of y'all come here, and we appreciate that more than you can possibly imagine. But we're going to talk about what it means to find your resources, because I've gotten to where I know who I turn to for different kinds of news and for what I need to know about different versions of the news. Because, yes, there's different versions. But we'll talk about it. Who are your trusted agents? How do you find them? That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, oh, yeah. Going to look around at what's happening in and around and amongst us, what's happening in our own backyard, what's happening where we live. And yes, we're going to cook up a batch of home fries. So home fries is number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, and we may have some breaking news on it, because I understand that Governor Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi are showing up at a press conference with the Texas runaway Democrats. Runaway! We're going to talk about Texas Hold'em. Texas Hold'em, that's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys, as always, that attorney Stan McDonald is indeed your sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue. Stan McDonald, 30-year veteran in the practice of law. Oh, by the way, longtime conservative, and your daily sponsor of the Rightside Way, and I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a minute. All right, so I gotta say, this is one of those, every once in a while I do what I would call a more philosophical monologue. This is one of those. And I gotta say, this one was inspired by not just life events, but life events that I've been through. I'll start off by saying that when I was a young paratrooper, I made my first jump off the ramp. That's basically out the back of the aircraft as opposed to going out the side door. So that the ramp comes down, you're standing on the ramp, and it's this big wide gap in the air, and you can hear the air rushing, and you just step off into space. The jump master that day was a Green Beret Master Sergeant who did all of his air safety checks. He gave all the right commands. And I was expecting him to tell me when to jump, which is the way you do it in the door. Like, tell me when to jump and then follow me out. No, he didn't do that. He stood up. He looked at the jumpers that were waiting. And when the green light went on, he turned and yelled at us, "Follow me." And he went off the ramp into the abyss, like first man off the ramp. Follow me. And I believe I would have followed him anywhere at that moment. It was like awe-inspiring. Look, people will stay. When a leader stands up, people will follow. When a leader stands up and says, "I see a way forward. I'm willing to go first. I'm willing to risk it. Follow me." Well, that's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing when you have somebody actually point the way, actually provide the clarity, the motivation, the wisdom that you need for that particular moment. But what about the times you can't see it yet? What about the times when it's unclear? What about the times when you're faced with opportunities, decisions, and you're just not sure which way to go? What about the times when you have no idea what God is doing? when your circumstances aren't giving you the right answers yet. Philippians 4, 6, and 7 talks about that. We're told in Philippians 4, 6, and 7 to not be anxious, but in all things, and by the way, that's all things, just to bring them to the Lord very specifically and with thankfulness. And the peace of God, it says, which makes no sense to the world around us, like a peace that defies all the odds, a peace that defies all the circumstances, that peace will, quote, guard our hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Well, the cool thing is, I recently saw that verse in what is known as the Amplified Version. The Amplified Version of the Bible, the peace that I'm talking about, it says, will mount a garrison and stand guard over your mind. Wow, think about that. In other words, the peace will fight for us like a garrison of soldiers. That's just cool. But getting to the peace, though, that's sometimes the tough part. And I totally get that. And I've had some life experiences, some good and some horrible. I've had some highs and lows personally and professionally. I've lost loved ones. I've had to work multiple jobs. I've faced trials. I've had some major victories too. I told someone the other day that I have no idea what a comfort zone is because I've never had one. But sometimes that's where you find the peace. Because if everything was perfect, you wouldn't need to go seeking peace, right? In the course of my time in uniform, a part of that time was several months spent at the U.S. Army Ranger School. And I've said before that becoming a Ranger was one of the best, worst experiences of my life. It was. It was a suck fest from day one. And I can honestly say that it moved me past all my limits, like physically, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. And I'd love to sit here and tell you it was no big deal, but no, it was every bit the personal trial that it was designed to be. I mean, if it was easy, everybody'd do it, right? But nobody would do it twice. Well, I had a day in Ranger School where I had hit my limit. And I believe I've told this story before, but if so, just stand by. You're going to hear it again. So I had hit my limit this one particular day. I had lost 30 pounds. I was sleep deprived. I was at my physical and mental endpoint. And that's the place, by the way, where you really learn more things about yourself. Nothing was going right on that particular cold February day in the swamps of Florida. I couldn't get anybody in my platoon to do anything at all. And I was not the only one hitting the wall, but yet I was the only one that was getting graded at that moment on how well I could move the guys who didn't want to move and get them to do things that were physically beyond their physical capabilities. So yeah, God and we had a moment, you know what I'm saying? A moment where I came to the realization that everything I'd been working for in Ranger School might have been for naught. Because in that particular moment, if things didn't pick up, I could have failed out. Not because I wasn't working, but because nobody else could. And in that moment, I had a very brief but meaningful discussion with the Lord. You see, I believe that God loves soldiers. I believe that God loves warriors. He is not offended that men and women who are in the midst of learning how to fight come to him. He's a God who can be meek and quiet and speak in a still small voice, and the very next minute he can rain down fire from heaven and make his enemies take a knee. So there I was at Ranger School, freezing in the wet and the nastiness of the swamps, talking with God in a very real and down-to-earth way. And it was not a long discussion. It was not. All I basically was doing was trying to figure out why things weren't going right. Wasn't I where he wanted me? Wasn't I doing what he wanted me to do? Didn't he put me here? My gut still said yes. Well, then why wasn't anything going right? Pretty much every day I was in the course, there were guys quitting. On day one of Ranger School, 450 tried to get into my class. 250 or so made it in. Only 98 of us graduated to become Rangers. Was it worth it? Hey, God, is this worth it? But then I settled into a different spot. And here's the thing. I remember it really wasn't so much as a prayer as it was a statement. I remember saying, and maybe even said it out loud, standing there in the swamps, just miserable. I said, well, God, if you want me to be a Ranger, then I will. And if you don't, then I'll go home and be proud of that too. It was an acceptance moment. It was a moment when I was basically saying, hey, God, I'm all in. I'm going to fight as long as you say fight, and I'm going to do everything it takes. And I'm going to quit fixating on my desired outcome. I'm just going to be obedient to the cause. I'm in the fight. Was I giving up? No, not a bit, not for a second. But I was recognizing and acceding to the idea that this was bigger than me and that the process was just as important in many ways as the outcome. You see, here's the thing. In that moment, that simple little discussion that I had with God in the moldy backwater of some swamp in the panhandle of Florida, it resulted in one of the most amazing experiences of my life. I kid you not. I can still remember it like it was yesterday. I felt this sense of relief wash over me. Like, Nothing I've ever felt before. I did. I mean, I literally got warm while I was standing there in the swamps in the winter. It was tangible. I suddenly felt like the guy who had been underwater too long was able to come up and catch a breath. And I actually remember I literally laughed out loud. I did, despite everything around me not being funny. But that was only the beginning, because right after that, the platoon seemed to catch a fresh breath as well. And guys started moving, and rucksacks went on, and comms came up, and we collapsed the perimeter and moved out, and we hit the target on time. And yes, I graduated from Ranger School. That was 34 years ago. I can remember it like it was yesterday, but sometimes I need to be reminded about it. I do, because what I learned that day is giving into the Lord is important. And also sometimes the mission is just to fight, just to carry on. Ronald Reagan knew about that. Ronald Reagan was lampooned by the left constantly, but he kept standing. One account of Reagan's legacy says this about him. It says, quote, "The defining feature of Ronald Reagan was his moral courage. It takes tremendous moral courage," it says, "to resist the overwhelming tide of the opinions of so-called experts and to say and do exactly the opposite. It could not have been pleasant for Reagan to be denounced as an ignorant cowboy, an extremist, a warmonger, a fascist, or worse, by people who thought themselves to be intellectually superior to him. But during Reagan's presidency," it said, "America enjoyed its longest period of sustained economic growth in the entire 20th century. And meanwhile," it says, "in the realm of foreign policy, the Reagan doctrine led to the defeat of the worst totalitarian scourge to blight the globe since the defeat of the Nazis in World War II. And by the time he left office, Ronald Reagan, the faith of Americans in the greatness of their country had been restored. And in retrospect, Reagan was a great American success story. Born in rented rooms above a bank in Tampico, Illinois, he ended his days as the single most important American conservative figure of the last century, which the author said was not bad for an ignorant cowboy. Look, I don't always get it. I'm stubborn. I'm hard-headed. I see things in a certain way, and I know that I often believe that I can just make a square peg fit in a round hole if I just take off a little bit more on the corners. I also know I'm a hard worker. I believe that sleep is highly overrated and that work is what sheepdogs do, and that not working is for sheep. I'm a big fan of stupid quotes like "chicks dig scars," and I'm motivated by stories of warriors who bear those scars. But I also get tired, if the truth be known. I find myself getting to the point that sometimes I just question the fight. Like I wonder, why can't it just be a little bit easier? But then I'm reminded of that day in the swamps when I was done in, and I learned the value of pushing through the moment and being satisfied with that, only to see that the end result actually happened because of the culmination of sticking with the moments and not fixating on what I could see the end to be. I'm reminded of people like Reagan, who stood in the gap when everyone said don't, and he did. And our lives were better because of it. And somewhere in that same time frame as when I finished Ranger School, I also ran across a poem. And I'm not one who's inclined to poetry, mind you, so I have no idea how I came to read this one. But it was spot on, and it was written by a lady named Ethelyn Weatherwald from the late 1800s. The whole thing is just called "My Orders." And all it says is this. It says, "My orders are to fight. And then if I bleed or fail or strongly win, what matters it? God only doth prevail. The servant craveth not except to serve with might. I was not told to win or lose. My orders are to fight." So let me encourage you. Hard times make strong men. Yep. And peace. Peace is real. If I can find peace in the swamps of Florida, then yeah, it's real. And it will mount a garrison and stand guard over your heart and mind when it makes no sense to the world to have peace. And sometimes just fighting is winning. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Sometimes just fighting is winning, my friends. I mean, think about it. Sometimes staying in the fight is the win, right? We get so fixated on what the outcome is going to be, we forget what we're doing. But the reality is peace. Peace is not always about having everything you want. Peace is about finding assurance when it makes no sense to have it. And sometimes that just means staying in the fight. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
Washington, D.C. tonight, where we have federal law enforcement on the streets. We're getting feedback. We're hoping to get feedback soon for what they're doing exactly. But why now and not 6 months ago when the president first took office, given the crime is down?
Well, first of all, the homicide rate in Washington, D.C. is very high compared to other major cities and other world capitals. So to continue to say crime is down, I think you're giving people a false sense of the fact that it is, in fact, dangerous in Washington, D.C. But I tried to tell you last night, this issue with the Doge kid, Ed, people are pissed about this, and it hammered home for a lot of Republicans the fact that Washington, D.C. is violent. There's roving street gangs. There's lots of carjackings. And, you know, this guy worked in the White House. He was known to a lot of senior government officials. And I told you last night it had set off a firestorm in the Republican Party. And this is the result.
Carjackings are down in Washington, D.C. 37%. 37%.
From here to here?
Whether 37% is a significant number.
It's not safe.
It's just math, right? It's just math. 37% drop is a significant drop. Here's the deal. If the president is doing this because someone that he knows got assaulted, unfortunately got assaulted, and then he can use that as an excuse to do what he likes to do, which is ratchet things up and use authoritarian measures to show force and take things over. And that's what he's getting at. But the reality is that things in terms of crime are trending down in Washington, D.C. It's just math. We didn't cook it up in a leftist socialist bubble. It's just math, guys.
What's
So it's true,
authoritarian about having law
that,
enforcement?
that crime is trending down. We also have to be honest. There was a big crime spike during COVID. And so the numbers are trending down from that spike during COVID, but still not where it was prior to COVID, right? So 2019
what's
numbers.
the big deal? What's the big deal on
Exactly.
Well, carjackings are a big deal in D.C., though.
I'm going to be very pro-law enforcement throughout the show tonight on all the different topics we're doing, right? I don't see the big problem with adding more law enforcement to the streets of Washington, D.C. Now, you can say they could be doing other things. You could say it's a use of resources, whatever. But I don't view this as some major scandal or big issue that, oh, my goodness, they're adding law enforcement people to the streets of D.C.
That's because it's not a scandal. It's not a scandal at all. I mean, the scandal right now is that trending down is great, but when you're still have a crime rate that is higher than Mexico City in the capital of the free world, that's an issue that has to be addressed. And Trump is absolutely right to do what it takes. If the locals can't get it done, but he can provide something to assist.
It's that last part.
That's
I'm
all
just
he's
saying,
doing.
what Van is saying is the crime rate is down, and we put that chart up on the screen before, showing how assault with dangerous weapons, robbery, violent crime, property down, all down pretty substantially in Washington, D.C. And to Dan's point, always put out more law enforcement if you can, but why now? Why tonight and not in January when it was
Why
higher?
not? Why not? I mean, we all acknowledge that there is some amount of too much violent crime in Washington. Well, most of us acknowledge there's violent crime in Washington, D.C. I think we all agree that having more people out on the street patrolling, looking for criminals is a good thing. Keeping an eye on the streets is a good thing. So why not?
I don't have a problem with adding more police officers as long as they're not like abusing people or using excessive force. What I do wonder about, though, is why is there an issue right now in D.C. where you literally have teenagers? Like, the people doing the carjackings are literally teenagers. There's something going on that needs to be addressed. And right now, it's just kind of dealing with a symptom of, I think, a deeper problem that needs to be addressed.
I'm going to say something here that probably doesn't surprise you guys. Adding tons of police to a place to specifically respond to what the president says is unprecedented violence. It might not bother all of you guys that much. Like having the police on the street looking for criminals doesn't bother you. It bothers me. It bothers me for many reasons. It bothers me because typically, or let me not say typically, all too often when the police are on the streets looking for criminals, they're looking for people like myself. And so what I would say is, anytime that is necessary, it's necessary for the police to do their jobs, for the cops to do their jobs, fine. It's always good to have cops doing their jobs and doing their jobs in ways that respect the citizenry of the American people. However, I will say that in a situation where it is this politicized and they are sent out there specifically for a mission, it makes me uncomfortable.
Can I make one comment on the politics of it? Because Jonathan Martin, our friend who writes at Politico, notes President Trump could have this week or last week gone out and said, hey, look at how much crime has dropped in D.C. This is all because of me. But instead of that, he's seizing on this one crime.
But that's dishonest to say that it's.
I'm telling you what Jonathan Martin is saying here.
We're kind of missing a big part of the story and what happened to that Doge staffer. There was literally a patrol car that saw everything happen, and that didn't prevent the crime from happening, which I think is also very strange, right?
And the only reason he didn't get injured any.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so we're back. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. That's the number. Want to get your feedback. Some of y'all already are, and I appreciate it. We'll get to them here momentarily. I gotta first tell you, though, about attorney Stan McDonald. Yes, indeedy. So Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. Stan McDonald, look, y'all, I know him as an attorney. I know him as a friend. I also know him as a longtime conservative. He's been in the trenches, in the mixes, on the policies and the politics that right-side ruffians care about for years. But yes, indeed, as a lawyer, I can tell you Stan McDonald has represented his clients in like literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to always say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, my friends, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So here's how you get in touch with him. If you want a lawyer in North Alabama, I'm going to tell you. You ready? Phone number's coming. Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation made that I would ever put on a bad lawyer's ad. Bam.
Very nice.
I'm just having fun with that now. Hey, let me go to the phone real quick before I run out of time. I only got a couple of minutes, but Wolverine Dan's on the line. Dan the man, what's going on?
Wonderful opening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
It inspires me, but I don't really need much to be inspired. You know, as you get older, I'm 66, things are a little harder to do than they were before. But you know what? To me, it's about the thought process, the trial and errors, and when you succeed. And the majority of the time I succeed because I'm like a bulldog. I will not stop until I get where I need to be.
There you go.
But also, it makes my mind work to think about, I'm working out an old, very early 1900s chair, and I want to reinforce it. And how do I make it look like it's still a 1900s to be able to reinforce it? Right now, I'm going through that process. So it's almost like the process that you went through. Okay,
yeah.
Yours was a lot more intense than mine. But you know what? It's the challenge. It's the work ethic. To me, that's the process is more rewarding than the finish.
Man, I hear you. It absolutely is. I mean, everybody wants the goal to be reached, but sometimes you got to remember the process is just important. But I think it's also really important that we just don't lose sight of peace in the middle of it. Hey, brother, music's playing, man. Appreciate the call. Wolverine Dan, as always. Thank you, bud. All right, listen, we're taking a break. I got text messages lining up. Brian Dawson from 1819 News will be here in a little bit. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Because the cops happened to be there. I think they arrested 2 out of 10 people.
They did, yeah.
But if you had more police on the street who were available to keep an eye on things, maybe some of these things would not escalate into as violent of a situation as they could be. But the guy was still very seriously injured, despite the fact that the cops were there.
Too, I would bet if you ask the rank and file right now, in the military we call these guys combat multipliers. You're adding something to the fray that only helps those who are already there doing the fight. You're going to ask the rank and file blue right now, and I guarantee you the rank and file members of the blue are asking for more help, and they're glad to have more on the street.
So you're saying that a force multiplier, the term that you're talking about,
a force multiplier,
that should be added to the American streets where American citizens are.
We're not
talking about operations overseas in a foreign country with specific tactical. Right. So what I'm saying is, when the force gets multiplied,
those on the streets are doing their job. And
you guys talk about escalation. We could talk about some escalations. We could talk about escalations in the case of Eric Garner.
I think you're going to have a de-escalation.
In the case of George Floyd.
You're going to have a de-escalation because you have more people on the streets bringing it to them. No, you're going to wind up having a de-escalation right now because there's less capability of the crime to take place with more troops on the street.
I would like to see a more comprehensive approach to this, right? These are teenagers. I don't want their skulls broken in by police. Right. I mean, okay, if we need to enforce the law a little better, sure, you can make an argument for that. But let's keep these teenagers busy, right? Like, let's invest in these communities, give these kids something positive to focus on. You know, there's never any focus on that, which I think is strange.
You said you were going to be super pro law enforcement tonight. What about the cops who were on the other side of this man now being employed by the Justice Department on tape saying, kill them, kill them? The rank and file that you just talked about there. You know, What do you think?
I think it's terrific that the DOJ has now hired a guy who was yelling about killing cops.
Right.
Period. I think that's an outrage. I think that is a scandal, in my view. I think it ought to be viewed as a scandal that this guy is now working in the DOJ, whether he's convicted or not convicted. He's on tape right there talking about killing cops. And I speak this way about people on the left who talk about killing cops. I talk about people on the right. You got to be consistent, though. If you're going to say you're pro-law enforcement, you got to say what that guy's doing is wrong, and he ought not to be in the Department of Justice.
Well, can I ask you a question to that point? Would you say that the President of the United States is pro-law enforcement? Because it seemed to me that he pardoned the people.
Right.
That
So
took place.
I would tell you that I think he is selectively pro-law enforcement. I think
Well, then you're not pro-law enforcement at all.
Well, look, that you can make that argument, and I've been very critical of the president about the pardons on January 6th. I think they're very hard to justify. Period.
Yeah, Trump's not very consistent.
Not just more than hard to justify, impossible to justify.
Phil, you said rank and file. How do you think the rank and file should feel about this guy on tape saying kill the Kim? Now, he says he was caught up in anger. It was just, those were just angry words. He didn't really want to kill them. But do you think the rank and file cares about that?
Yeah, I think they should. I think they absolutely should, and I agree. I mean, if that was his voice saying those things, and he's now working for the DOJ,
He admits to saying it was his
okay,
voice.
well then great. The DOJ needs to re-examine their hiring policies, but I don't think we can paint the broad brush on what's happening on the streets of DC
It's
right
a
now.
separate issue. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But the reality is, yes. I mean, if that occurred and then he was hired to be, I'm not saying it didn't. I'm just saying if indeed that occurred over here, then why is he working over here? I can't explain that. I can't give that. I can't give that a buy.
I can explain it because President Trump has he gains politically from empowering
was sitting there
people,
interviewing the man for the job.
empowering people that were
You make
involved
it
in
sound like the
January 6th.
HR director is President Trump.
I will say this. He's still in
rewards as well.
It relates to your other topic about the FBI, about the people who are getting now fired in the FBI because they either wouldn't give the names of all the people who worked on the January 6 cases. I mean, remember, when you are in law enforcement, the vast majority of people in law enforcement do not pick the cases they work on. If you want to talk about the person at the top, okay. Just about everyone else works on the cases they're assigned to work on. And we have now seen mass firings of anyone, even support staff, who touched the January 6th case. That, too, is an outrage because that's not pro-law enforcement either.
Again, I'll just leave you with this. The Justice Department says that Jared Wise is a valued member of the Justice Department, and we appreciate.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This one, goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that, by the way, is just the radio audience. Thank you very much. Thank you, radio people. But then there's a bunch of y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, live streaming the show every single day, watching us online, like you can see inside the studio while we're doing our thing. And all places like Rumble and X and YouTube and Facebook and our website, rightsidemedia.org. That's our website. And then a ton of y'all podcasted after the fact. We know because we can see the numbers. And it just means the world to us. So everywhere you are right now, if you are hearing me say this because you grab the show in one medium or another, just want you to know, I say this every time. I do it multiple times on the show to make sure you hear me say, we appreciate you. This audience is the reason why we do what we do. Text lines are on fire right now, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Got a texter, Pastor Joe. Oh, Pastor Joe. Pastor Joe, tell us where you're from so we can plug you into our text machine. What am I trying to say? I lost my words.
Text line.
Thank you. Into the text lines. He asked, Phil, what was the title of the poem you just shared and the author? I will. The poem is called My Orders. That's it. My Orders. It was written in the 1800s. And the lady who wrote it is named Ethelwyn, and it's spelled Ethelwyn, Ethelwyn Wetherald, Wetherald. So you want to here it is right here. If you want to text that to him, just in case he wants to see it. But that's it. It's called My Orders by Ethelwyn Wetherald. Yeah, that I don't know where I found it. I just ran across it one day, and it just resonated with me. So anyway, thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, Pastor Joe is from Athens. So Pastor Joe, we're glad we got you plugged in. Karen from Hickson, Tennessee says, just for a moment, my hubby and me are celebrating our 43rd anniversary. Can I have some applause, please, for that? That's amazing. That's awesome. He said, she said, we almost split during some bad times, including the loss of our 22-year-old son. Man, but we stayed together and we are here today. I'm just thankful for that. Thankful we stayed the course, she said. God bless you, family and staff. Karen from Hickson. Hickson, Tennessee is better off because of it. And so is your family. So Karen, blessings on you. Happy anniversary, by the way. Jerry from Decatur says, proud of you last night, Phil. Thank you very much. Says, thanks for standing your ground. Can you imagine what we would have if the Dems had won and fulfilled their aim to destroy the Republican Party through gerrymandering districts all over the nation? I think that was the reason for open borders. Airborne. Thank you, Jerry. And yeah. So yeah, what he's referring to, in case you didn't know, most of you already know, I was in New York City last night, appearing on CNN. They do a panel show at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern every night. It's called News Night. And I was on last night with Scott Jennings, who to me is like he's one of my heroes right now in conservative world. But Scott Jennings, and then a panel of others, Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, a guy named, we had Dan Abrams. And then what was Van's last name? I just forgot.
Van Latham.
Van Latham. Thank you very much. Good crew. And I will tell you, so yeah, we mixed it up on the air. Yeah, we did. If you haven't seen it, we've been posting clips. In fact, JP's been, if you're watching the live stream, JP's been using our breaks. Like when we go to break on the radio, he's been using that as a place to replay last night's CNN deal. But we mix it up on the air. But I got to tell you, off the air, we were laughing and cutting up. It was kind of fun. Now, that's better than the last one. The last time I was on there, not everybody was happy. I can think of one lady in particular who was just not an enjoyable person.
You mean Anna Navarro is not a happy person?
I didn't say her name. You did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could connect it. Well, actually, today they officially announced the View's canceled.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah. So I think you actually were on with her when they like a day or two before or after they decided they were going on hiatus, quote hiatus.
Hiatus.
But I think I predicted on the air that in like a week or two they were just going to cancel it all together. So I think she was a bit unhappy with that.
You nailed that.
Yeah, it's and Rosie O'Donnell today actually came out and said that they're appeasing Trump. That's why they did it, of course.
Appeasing Trump. You know what's happening? I'll tell you what's happening. Like for instance, CNN has been having me come up, but they've had Scott Jennings coming up for quite a while, and there's a few others. But this show in particular that I'm on prides itself on having the mixed opinions.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that. And as much as I gig CNN, you can look at their stuff, generally speaking, they would what I call center left.
Yes.
But they're not like flamers. They're not MSNBC.
Yeah, but I was just about to say, they're not MSNBC.
Yeah, but they are definitely center left. But they have been making a decided effort because they see, just like seeing Stephen Colbert being canceled. The Views being canceled. What they're realizing is they have no audience, or they have such a limited audience that they're leaving behind an entire segment of the population that won't even tune in anymore. And so they're trying to mix it up. And I think that's wise.
Yeah, they're smelling the roses.
Yeah.
I think that show is great, though, because you got, I mentioned it to you off air, you got conservatives from Kentucky and Alabama, and then liberals from LA, New York. Like that's a good opportunity to bridge. But I thought the moderator last night didn't do a good job of just staying neutral.
I had somebody text me afterwards, said that the moderator didn't moderate much. It was more like a bar fight. But it was good. Jeff from Indiana texting in. He says, hey, Phil, which was harder, going through the struggles in the swamps in Florida or on CNN in the liberal swamp? He says, either way, you accomplished your mission. Thanks, man. He said, at least when you get a word in edgewise. Yeah, there's that. There were times when, I knew I had something I wanted to say, but you have to share the mic because there's a limited amount of time. John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Definitely one of your best. Thank you. So also, did you hear that Superman actor Dean Cain's about to become an honorary ICE agent? I did. That's very cool, actually.
Y'all talked about it on the show last night.
We did. I mean, I think it's cool. And they were mocking it last night. I'm like, they wouldn't mock it. Listen, if I'm trying to think, what's a liberal gathering that, like, that you could say, I can't think of what one would be. Oh, okay. I tell you what. Remember when they had that whole thing about how they were going to have the climate core, the Green New Steel was going to have the Biden climate core. I guarantee you, if some Hollywood fixture had said, I want to volunteer to be a part of the climate corps, they would have said, come right in. We'll make you the poster person for recruiting.
Whoever plays Captain America, I can't remember his name, who is unfortunately a liberal.
Oh, super lib. It's so disappointing.
Yeah. If he were to come out and do that, yeah, they'd say he's a hero. Yeah.
Lee from Decatur says, amen, brother. Amen. Set the pace. Thank you, Lee. John from Harvest says, Phil, regarding your monologue, amen and amen. Thank you, John. And then Tom with all the kids says, my philosophy has always been, let them tell me no, never quit. Yep. I hear it. Well, listen, we got plenty to talk about today. So in a minute, we're going to get into this segment and talk about what are your trusted agents? A minute ago, I talked about CNN is obviously making the effort to find a way to reach an audience that it has been missing. That's NBC, CBS, ABC, the major networks. I don't know they've had a complete come to Jesus on it yet, but I will say this: you can tell that some things are happening when I don't care what the libs say on the panels that I sit on when I go up to New York. So I like the last time I was up there, she was talking, well, it's obvious we're resonating with the people and that everybody's getting tired of Trump. I'm not seeing it. Are you seeing it? Maybe some are. You know what? Maybe those who sit in the middle that just really didn't want mean tweets again. I get it. Maybe they are, but I think by and large, the Trump base is not. However, what's happening is these major networks and all are realizing we can't just leave money on the table. We can't just survive off of the segment that didn't even win the popular vote. We can't relegate ourselves to just one segment of society and expect it to work, or we'll never continue to grow. If they're going to keep up with the mainstream, they got to be where the mainstream is, right? So I guess in the end, we'll see what happens. What are they going to replace The View with? Do we know yet? Did they say what it's going to be replaced with? As they said?
I haven't seen. I can look it up. I'm sure they were replacing it with some riveting television. We're not.
I did see, by the way, that Gutfeld went on Jimmy Kimmel.
He did.
How did that go?
Oh no, Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The clips I saw, it was good. I mean,
I read like a synopsis, a part of it where they were like really joking with each other.
Well, they're apparently friends outside of the show, so I think they're just comfortable with each other. But yeah, I think stuff like that's good. It come back to the center. We don't have to agree, but at least don't alienate the people that you disagree with.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's going to be a chance for discourse. Does not mean, oh, by the way, you just lost your principles.
Yeah, you don't have to call each other a Nazi. You don't have to do any of that.
Nope. We'll watch how it all plays out with these major networks. But anyway, in a minute, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about where do you find your news? That's my point. I rambled through, back to it now again, coming full circle. Where do you find your news? Where do you find your information? I said before that when Rightside kicked off over 4 years ago, that my intent was to impact culture. I really wanted to make sure that we did everything that it takes to do what I call the mission and the message. The mission and the message. That we're going to do the mission, which is every day we're going to do the 4 E's. We're going to educate, enlighten, empower, and entertain you on what it means to be a conservative in today's world. All right, so that's the mission. But the message is what drives the mission. And the message is every single day, I want you to hear that this radio show stands for and is willing to say, Jesus is Lord, America's great, Alabama's beautiful, oh, by the way, life's worth living. That's what we stand for. Well, you know what we stand for. But do you know what all the other sources that you might be turning to stand for? Do they have a creed? Do they have a mantra? Oh, by the way, do they have a reliable reputation? And then you have to look at it too and go, okay, what am I going to news for? Am I looking for news that just underwrites my current opinions? Or am I looking for news? And then if I'm just looking for news, who's objective? And if I'm looking for opinion, like, please help me put words to the way I feel, then who do I turn to for that? And that's the thing. In a little while, we're going to have Brian Dawson from 1819 News in here. He'll share the conversation with me. But the truth of the matter is, there's news, and that's Dawson in 1819 and his folks. And there's opinion, and that's Rightside, and we make no bones about it. We're a conservative content generator. But who do you trust? What other sources do you have? I'll tell you what some of the ones I refer to are when I prepare the resources. You can hear me rattling the paper. You know I'm going out there to all kinds of sites and pulling news. But you got to get to the point that if you're not sure and you need to track it down, where do you go? We'll take a break right now. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
All right, tonight President Trump perhaps making moves to change the U.S. entire political map as the redistricting war intensifies, with more states threatening to blow up their maps in response to Texas trying to eliminate 5 Democratic seats ahead of the midterms. The president kind of throwing a grenade in the middle of it all. He's calling for a new census, which of course determines how many congressional seats every state gets, as well as how much money they receive. Not only is the timing extraordinary, since the census is only carried out at the end of the decade, but the president wants to exclude undocumented immigrants that many Republicans believe would be advantageous to the party if they did that. This comes as the White House is pressuring states, urging them to follow the lead from Texas. Vice President J.D. Vance met with Indiana Republicans tonight amid protests and boos, but left, apparently, without a commitment from Indiana's leaders. Scott Jennings, do you think the president wants to do a mid-decade census and reapportion everything right now? What's he doing?
Well, he certainly wants to do the census in a way that doesn't count illegal aliens as part of the overall population for the purpose of determining congressional districts and federal funding. And I think he's going to have a lot of popular support for it. Now, I know there's a process they have to go through, and it would take a long time to do a census, but there is a widespread belief that Democrats want to keep the system in place that they have because it advantages them. I know that that's what they believe because a Democratic congresswoman from New York, Clark, the other day said out loud, I want more migrants in my district for redistricting purposes. And so it's a political strategy of the Democrats. And I think the president's saying to the American people, why are we counting illegal aliens, unauthorized residents in this country when it comes to apportioning our political leadership?
It's because it's in the Constitution, the United States Constitution. The Supreme Court ruled on this in 2019, and they ruled against Trump 5-4. It's in the Constitution. I have a big problem with this, regardless of whether it's gerrymandering, which both parties do, or this attempt at changing the way we count the number of living residents in the United States, because it's all about cheating. It's all about rigging the system in a way that gives one party an advantage. But what I don't understand is, why do they want the advantage? Congress is useless. They do nothing for the American people other than vote on bills to lower taxes, increase spending on wars, things like that. But when it comes to representing the American people, both parties are really like a uniparty these days and don't really get much done. I mean, one of the things that we need to do more than anything right now is reform our immigration laws so we don't keep doing this pendulum swing from a left-wing president who has a more open borders type policy to a right-wing president who's like very draconian in his executive orders pertaining to immigration laws. Congress is useless to the point where I question whether our system of checks and balances even matters. And then besides that, you have Congress increasingly ceding their power to the executive branch when it comes to some of the most important issues of our day, including whether or not we engage in war. So I'm really down on Congress at this point.
Yeah, seems like it.
And I don't understand why they're so desperate to cheat, to gain more power when they don't really do much with that power, other than, well, there's a lot of, in my opinion, insider trading going on in Congress with both parties.
I want to jump in on some part of that because that was a lot. But
it is,
but the reality is, I believe the court decision you're talking about with regard to the census never truly drew down on the actual issue of can you count illegals or not. It ruled on the process that was in place at the time without addressing the base issue of can you count illegals. I really do believe, at the very least, what Trump is doing is he's putting something out there right now in the public eye that could wind up being then litigated and then wind up getting the question to the Supreme Court to make a decision while he has a conservative Supreme Court to do it. And I really believe that needs to happen.
Can we agree it should be for 2030 and not for 2025?
I don't care when it is.
Well, I do.
That's
I think
a matter of state law, though.
Well,
that's a matter of state law. That's why Texas is doing was because of Texas
the census is not a matter of state law.
No, doing it is, but then the process of doing it is a matter of state law in every state.
But representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their representative numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state. That's the Constitution.
No, but you're missing the part of the state and then has the process of doing it. And the state constitution sets up a process that did not have a mandate of only one. then you can have 2, or you can have 3, or you can have 5. And that's what Texas is doing because Texas law allows
okay,
it.
Texas we're talking about two different things.
Texas
We're
is a
talking about
separate
two
issue.
different things.
That's a separate issue.
Good.
That's a political power.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, look, I mean, are we talking about Texas or are we talking about...
Stick on the census first, and then we can
Yeah,
move
no,
to
I mean, look,
Texas.
there is an argument that Trump might win in the Supreme Court about whether you can exclude people who are not citizens, period. That's a separate question from the when, right? I think there are a lot of people, bipartisan, who think we shouldn't be playing this game in the middle of the decade. This belongs at 2020. It belongs at 2030. That's when the next one should happen. And there's some ambiguity about whether Trump is talking about setting this up for 2030 or is he talking about now?
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Hey, I got to tell you, Brian Dawson from 1819 just texted me. He was held up. He should be here any time now, but I'm going to start this conversation here momentarily. Don't forget the text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. And speaking of which, there he is. He just walked in the door. Brian Dawson. Hey, I see you got the blue shirt memo.
Yes.
There's something about blue shirt today on Friday. I don't know what's going on.
Thinking about the ocean.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Hey, throw that headset on right there and grab that mic right there, brother. So I just came back from the break, man, and I was talking trash about you, but it's all right.
God told me, and that's why I walked in.
You doing all right?
Yes, sir.
You've had a day already, huh?
Always.
Well, it's Friday.
Yes.
So we do have a Friday sound effect we play every week because it's Friday. But I'm going to do this segment. We're going to talk a little bit, and it's perfect timing because here you are about catch your breath. You good?
I'm good, man. There's stairs and I'm fat, and
No.
those two go together like.
I got you a bottle of water.
Thank you.
It's all
I'm
good.
just going to pour it over my head
Just
from that
go
walk
right
up the
ahead.
steps. Yeah.
Now you've been all over the Southeast the last 24 hours, I think.
Yeah.
I want to talk about finding your trusted agents, your news source, your opinion source. Where do you go to actually find the stuff that when you read it, when you hear it, when you look it up, you're confident that you're going to a source that you can trust? And you can't say that about every one of them out there. I can think of some that are just local, like Alabama, where I won't even use their stuff. And then I can think of some nationally that I won't use their stuff unless I need it to actually be what the other side is saying because they're so blatantly on the other side.
Yeah.
Difference between news and opinion, obviously. But one of the things that I pulled, I found this article. I hold it here in my calloused former paratrooper hands from a group called newslet.org. And it's the things you should look for when you're trying to decide if it's a reputable news source. Are you ready for the quiz?
Yeah, hit me.
So they literally encourage, and this is what we're saying, folks. Listen, I'll tell you who I rely on, but find the ones you like. One is if you can do a quick search and you can find them, that means they're already trending. So the algorithms are finding them. There's that. But then there's looking for your standards. Are they aspiring to ethical guidelines? Because there actually are ethical guidelines in the news industry. Do they have transparency? Like, will they report where they sourced their photos? Will they report where they sourced their information? Will they credit other news agencies if they're referencing their stories? Examine how the errors are handled. In other words, will they actually print a retraction or will they print a correction? And do they do it in a way that hides it? Or do they say, we did this and we want to make sure everybody knows the truth? And then the other one was just, take the time to vet yourself. Go check it out. And then if you like it, why do you like it? And just make it part of your list.
Yeah.
But you guys at 1819, so it's easy. I feel like we're doing a shameless plug for y'all, and that's not the intent.
Buddy, just keep them going. I think we got 2 more hours. You can just keep going.
This all about 1819 today. But no, I make no bones about the fact that we are a content generator at Rightside. Yeah. So we're an opinion source. We're a conservative opinion source. We will talk Jesus. We will talk conservative policy and politics. We'll talk about the things that are on the right side of the aisle, so to speak. You guys, on the other hand, 1819, are a news source, but you're obviously staffed largely with conservative people. How do you balance the fact that you feel a certain way with doing news?
Yeah, I'd say conservative Christian people. I would even go a step farther. And so I believe that there is such a thing as objective truth, objective goodness, and objective beauty. And, you know, there's people who realize that, and there's people that don't. And so when you realize those things, we're going to curate content based off of a worldview. Everybody does. The difference is, are we going to come in and editorialize in a news story, which is providing our opinions inside of what something we would label news, which we do not do. It's just the facts. But when you write a news story about, you know, there's a transgender parade going on in downtown Gadsden, say, you will not read the story.
There's not, by the way.
Yeah, there's not. Thank you. But if you read that story in AL.com, it would have a celebratory feel. If you read it in 1819 News, you would understand that we're writing this story because we don't think it's a good thing, not because we opined or whatever else. It's like, it's the angle that we're taking. It's obvious this is, you know, kind of where we're standing, and worldview matters. And then worldview is how you curate content, but our content is on the news page, because we separate news and opinion. Our journalists are out there beating the pavement, asking real questions, like real actual reporters that go out there, shoe leather journalists, beating the pavement, pressing the flesh, asking real questions about things that really matter to the average Alabamian. And we just write that this person said this, or we found this here. You know, we're reporting, but the things that we think are important to report on would line up with the majority of Alabamians, right? And what they think is important. Versus AL.com, which is not what most Alabamians think is important, except sports.
Are you naming names today?
Yes.
Oh, I name it all the time. In fact, I jokingly say every once in a while, when I pull up a source that most would consider liberal, I usually have this line where I'll stop and I'll say, Phil, did you go to Axios? I did. I go to these places so you don't have to. But yeah, I think that's all right. I hear what you're saying. I also think there's an impetus behind even starting up a site like yours. You and I did our podcast not long ago, and you talked about that. Let me kick it off a little bit more when we come back from the break. But in the course of doing it, when we come back from this break, I want to kick into how, like, you personally, besides 1819, what do you think about finding actual, news you can trust, so to speak?
Sure.
All right, we're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Members in my household who are undocumented, and the census person shows up to take a count, I'm not opening the door. So the census is going to be real messed up if the Supreme Court, which I don't know how the Supreme Court's going to rule. You're right. It's a very conservative Supreme Court.
Is messed up now.
Is it messed up? I mean, they're counting people who live in the United States.
There's no doubt that
conservatives don't like that it counts undocumented.
They can't vote, but it determines who gets to serve.
Every census in history up until this point.
That's for sure.
No, it also determines who's in Congress, and it might mean 20 to 30 seats. That's why Democrats are in the middle of a high-speed come-apart right now.
Hang on.
Well, Texas and Florida better be real careful, because they're under the assumption that they don't have a bunch of undocumented immigrants residing in those red states.
Dan, and then I have one point to make. Go ahead.
No.
All I was going to say is you were saying the Democrats are on a fast track to something. It really seems like it's Republicans in Texas.
No, I'm saying they're upset about the census move today.
Well, then it's Republicans who are upset about the current situation heading into the 2026 midterms, isn't it? I mean, they're working really hard here to redistrict in Texas. They're working really hard here in the White House to maybe have a new census. Does that indicate or betray some concern about the midterms coming up?
I don't think they're working any harder than Democrats work to gerrymander all the states that are currently gerrymandered. It's a political process. It's inherently up to the people of the states to elect state legislatures to draw these lines. And if the people in Texas don't like it, they can change it. But I don't think they're going to.
The win matters, like we've been talking about. Everyone gerrymanders at the beginning of the decade. When you do it specifically,
there
when
has
you do
been
it,
mid-district.
they have done it before.
Texas did it, and it was after the Voting Rights Act.
Right. So like
they helped the Democrats in 22 when they did it.
But specifically here, the reason why it seems so undemocratic is because it's being done at a time where people think that the Republicans might be vulnerable to losing.
But let me jump in on that too and say that elections have consequences. And in 2010, I was part of the Republican wave in Alabama. I was elected to the state Senate. I was part of the class that came in, and for 136 years, the Democrats had controlled our state house. And for the first time ever, we flipped it red.
And guess what? We got to do the reapportionment process the very next year, and Democrats hated it because they were not
at the beginning of the decade.
And it was the beginning of the decade, but they didn't run away.
You say that elections have consequences. Should those consequences be
those who are in charge then get to wind up making the process? The one who has the majority winds up getting, and that's the election. If Texas doesn't like it, they need to elect more Democrats.
Wait, hang on one second. You're saying the election of Congress. I get it. President Trump has cited the results from 2024 as the reason that we need a new census. What exactly does that mean? I mean, you're saying elections have consequences. He's saying that the election of 2024 is the reason we should have a new census. I don't understand what that means.
He likes to reference the fact that he won the popular vote to indicate that he can do whatever he wants, basically. Like, literally, that he thinks he has a mandate to do whatever he wants.
Things do change a lot over a 10-year period. People are up in arms about this mid-decade thing. I mean, populations change, people move. There is movement, and to have the same congressional district for 10 years, I mean, you could make an argument that there's enough movement in the United States that it's okay to look at these things
but then you
more
got to
often
do
than
it
once
every
every 10 years.
Why not? You should do it every year then.
They can if they want. I don't know that they would.
In theory, you're not supposed to do it until every 10 years, which is what we're talking about, which is it's supposed to happen every 10 years unless you want to change the rules midway in the game.
It's more traditional that's happening.
Simple question. Do we want the most democratic results, the most free and fair elections to come out of all of these states, or do we want to have the rules set up where the party in power can simply entrench themselves for a generation?
Brother, have you seen the lines in Illinois?
I get it. I understand it.
What about Wisconsin? What about North Carolina? What about Utah?
We're having two different conversations. You're talking about politics, and I'm talking about democracy. I'm not saying that gerrymandering and the way that it's done, it's okay for the left or for the Democrats to do. I'm not saying, but I'm saying right now, this is becoming a flashpoint issue because it's so obvious.
But I don't think this is a threat to democracy, is what you're saying. This is a reality. This is a result of democracy. The people voted for the people who are now doing the reapportionment. That's the democracy. And then the democracy is and then they have a duty.
That's a republic.
And the duty winds up becoming theirs to then form the lines. And if those who are in the minority don't like the lines.
The only threat here is that do-nothing politicians who want to keep skating by not actually representing the American people just want to rig the system in any way they can to get an upper hand. That's what this is about. And both parties are guilty of doing it. Right now, Republicans are the loudest in wanting to do it, so they're getting all the attention. But the fact of the matter is gerrymandering is a huge problem, and it disenfranchises voters. I'm in California. Democrats have a stronghold in the state of California. And you know what? You want to know something? It's a big problem. Because if you don't have two parties competing with one another in a state, you have corruption, okay? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. You have that in California and other states that are dominated by the other party. You need that tension with the two parties or else you're not going to have real representation in your state.
All right, next, as video surfaces of agents raiding a Home Depot from a rental truck, we're now learning ICE is getting rid of its age limit to recruit more. All right, tonight there are some anger and questions after Border Patrol agents jumped out of a rented box truck and conducted an immigration raid at a Home Depot in Los Angeles. The agency is calling it Operation Trojan Horse, and the raid comes just days after a federal judge upheld a court order banning immigration authorities from stopping people without cause. And breaking tonight, the Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to allow these raids to continue. Dan, the courts had ruled that they can't do this indiscriminately. So I guess in this case, they have to show that it was targeted specifically.
That they had reasonable suspicion of the people involved. Yeah. And that's the question, right? Because it's not just a federal judge, it's an appeals court has also upheld that temporary restraining order for now, which is why the administration has appealed it tonight. And so, in theory, they're going to have to defend what it was, the reasonable suspicion. It can't just be that they're hanging out. It can't just be that they're speaking in a particular language. There has to be some specific reasonable suspicion of what they did wrong. So I'm more concerned about the potential that a court order was violated than I am about what kind of truck they were in.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I think the truck thing was genius, to be honest with you. I mean, no one cared when Penske had a Penske truck was being used to track 60 illegal aliens in 2023. But now they care that it's ICE agents in the back of the Penske truck. And I'll be honest with you, part of the reason why they had to do this, take the totality of the whole situation here. You've got apps out there that are disclosing where ICE agents are. You've got people calling ahead and warning. So what should ICE do? Make a reservation that we're going to be at the site at a certain time? And that's not feasible. this Operation Trojan Horse, which is what they called it.
So they should
was
do the
absolutely-
laziest possible thing and go
This
to
is
a
not
Home
lazy.
Depot
This
parking
was
lot
genius.
and arrest a bunch of day laborers.
Well, they arrested 16 people and a whole bunch of others scattered.
I feel so much safer. Ooh, I feel so much
I think
better
the
than a bunch of
reality
day
is-
laborers got rounded up by ICE.
I think the reality
My
is
tax
they were
dollars
doing
at work.
exactly what they were supposed. Your tax dollars weren't
I'm
worth.
telling you guys something. People don't like this.
Nope, they don't.
They don't. People.
Conservative and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 already. Hour number 2 on a Friday. Brian Dawson sitting in studio right now from 1819 News. Brian Dawson, glad you're here. Thank you very much.
Happy to be here.
You were on yesterday with Ernie.
I was. He wanted me to call in, and I know what it's like to try and host a 3 or 4 hour radio show with nobody to call in. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to set some time aside and help my buddy Ernie
Well,
out.
I appreciate it. You're a frequent flyer now. We did a
Yeah.
podcast with you recently. You're on the show today, and you called in yesterday. Hey, by the way, the text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. That's the number. Text it. If you got a question, I tell you what, if you got a question for Brian Dawson from 1819 News, like, hey, why'd you write that story? Or, hey, what do you think about whatever? Text it in, and if we can ask it, we will. JP, you monitor those and let us know because I'm looking to the side over here. All right, hey, listen, we're talking right now about trusted agents. What are your trusted sources? Obviously, you trust 1819 News.
Yeah.
I know that 1819 focuses on state and local, state especially. But where does Brian Dawson go to find his news? I mean, like outside of your own source, if you had to say, I'm not allowed to look at 1819 today, but I'm going to go find state, national, whatever it be, what do you turn to? Do you have some your turn tos?
Yeah. Tucker Carlson is, and again, his is a weird kind of like magazine journalism on a podcast, if that makes sense. Like there's definitely some editorializing, there's definitely opinion, but he does get into brass tacks and brings in experts who give their opinions, and then expert opinion that you would, like if I was doing a news article, I would call this person to get their expert opinion and put that in a news story. And so he does a great job of that. Epic Times, I think, is kind of the gold standard of journalism in the national and international kind of geopolitical space. And then I've just got an assortment of podcasts that I listen to, and then Twitter. I've had to take Twitter off my phone recently. I kind of doom scroll and like ignore my kids, and it's like, yeah, that's not healthy. And again, it's just we're in that world, like we're in the media world, and so it can become all consuming. And it's like, you know what? I've got people that track what's going on. I don't always need to know what's going on, and had a lot of peace in my life since taking Twitter off. But yeah, there's just some different accounts depending on the subject, that if I see this account post that, then I assume that they've done their research or whatever. But yeah, I'd say Tucker Carlson, Epic Times, and then Breitbart.
Yeah, I get that, and I share some of those, and Charlene and I'll have a conversation. She'll say, "Did you see so and so happened?" No, who's saying that? And that's usually my follow up is, "No, who's saying that?" And she's real. I mean, Charlene's great about having reliable sources too. But then she'll follow up with, "Oh, it was Charlie Kirk." Oh, in that case, I'm looking at it going, "I get it." Or it was Tucker. Or it was whatever. And so my point there to all of you listening right now is you got to find them. And now I'm listening. I know who I'm preaching. I'm preaching to the choir right now because you guys have found Rightside Radio, and a lot of y'all also, dial up 1819 News every day. But what I'm saying is there's a broad world out there of news. If you want to know something, then you get into like item specific. Like me, there are times when I build genre-based dippers on the show. I call them the dippers, triple dipper of the day. And I may have one that's all military. Okay, then I got to find something that's all military. I'm probably not going to find pure military on 1819 News, except I might find something about Space Command coming to, to Huntsville, or maybe there's something about, the renaming of the base down at Fort Rucker. But if I want to find big stuff like what's going on in broad policy or whatever else, then I'm looking for. So sometimes you got to find your genre. So in that, I know that the liberal side for me is military.com. Oh, what are the libs saying about what Hegseth said? Well, go to military.com.
Sure.
If I want to know what the Army's doing, the Army Times has some stuff on it. And then if I want to see really good stuff, I go to Real Clear Defense, or I go see what General Jack Keane commented on, because he's an opinion person who I trust. That being said, there's actually groups out there that rate media. Have you seen this?
I can only imagine.
There's an organization called allsides.com. You got that chart, man? If you're watching live stream right now, and I know hundreds of y'all do, if you're watching live stream right now, JP is going to put a chart up on the board. But this chart literally ranks national news by far left, center, center right, and far right. And you can imagine, you just named some of the ones you look to, Epoch Times. They're right there in the center right portion. Breitbart's on the far right. Tucker Carlson was in here somewhere. I think he was. Daily Wire is one of my go-tos. I go to Daily Wire quite often. Federalist I definitely go to, especially on legal. Newsmax is far right. I use Washington Examiner all the time, New York Post all the time, Just the News all the time, Fox all the time. And then I find myself every once in a while going to something like Christian Science Monitor, maybe Wall Street Journal sometimes. Where it gets funny is when I find a story and I think, well, I guess I need to tell them what MSNBC said.
Yeah.
And that's as far left as you can get on this chart.
Yes.
You got that chart up right now? Yeah, that chart out there is, by the way, it's called the All Sides Media Bias Chart. If you've got a source you're like looking at going, but they said this, why would they say that? Probably because they have a slant to their news. And you may find the slant just by looking at the chart. Anyway, I found this fascinating. But other sources that I look at. So if I have to round out, and if I have to look at, okay, I can't just go Fox when I'm doing my stories.
I'm not a big Fox fan.
And I like Fox for general news.
Sure.
If I've got a story, sometimes the headlines will tell me then what to go dig out in other places. And so Fox is going to be a source, but then I have to have what I call my backup sources.
Sure.
I have to go see whether Fox is actually give me everything yet. And I think the bottom line is you got to build. But it's also who you build with. Talk about, if you don't mind, building your team at 18-19, because you guys have had 4 years of a run now, and you've really built a team.
Yeah, no. Most important thing, you read success literature, they always talk about your team and your culture. And I read a lot of success literature before I ever tried launching my own company. And I now know why they emphasize your team and your culture so much, because that is what makes it happen. And, you know, we had an editor, before, Jeff Poor, great guy. Definitely going to be in heaven with us. Great wife, great kids, like just an amazing guy.
Yeah.
But he kind of comes from the old order of news, a very Wall Street Journal, and his vision was like a Wall Street Journal for Alabama. And I'm like, okay, whatever, like anything other than what we have. And the problem with the way that they think is, and I'm looking at the names on this sheet that you had posted up there and thinking about this is, when they say down the middle, what they mean is, if you say a truth on the right, we're willing to go over to the left where there's a thing that we know not to be true. So there's objective truth, good, beauty, as I said. We will go and get what Reuters said that we know isn't true, and we'll put it in the story because we made a right truth claim, like a truth claim that was on the right. So down the middle is getting a quote unquote truth claim from the left that we know isn't true, but we're going to put it in the story. That way we can say that we're balanced. And I'm saying that I actually don't want to see what Satan's view is on that subject, right? And I think we're so far removed as a culture and a society from reality that is exactly what you're doing when you try that super duper balanced approach. And again, you go back to like the trans issue is just the easiest thing to say there. I don't want to go to Rachel Levine, and I'm just going to say Mr. Levine because I don't even like calling Mr. Levine Rachel.
No doubt.
To get Mr. Levine's opinion on anything because it's a dude in a dress. I don't care what it says. Okay. I'm going to go with what's real and true. And so like Steve Marshall just had a huge victory. And we played a very significant role in it as well with this transgender ban that just happened.
Yeah.
And what he showed was that this group of Soros funded attorneys was working to sue based off medical standards that were coming from hijacked medical associations. So the paid science type medical associations, just like what we dealt with COVID.
Right.
So these medical associations that are the standard bearer of truth that do standard of care, they're pumping this stuff out, but it's full of a bunch of dudes like Rachel Levine. Okay. And they're pumping out standard of care and what the industry is. And if you're like, yeah, that's actually crazy, then all of a sudden you get sued by the Department of Justice, Biden's Department of Justice. Right.
Yeah.
And so my point is, we have to be above that fray. And it's like, I don't care if they're the experts. That is a lie. We're not going to them to get what they have to say. Now we'll report on what they have to say, but it'll be very clear that it was a dude in a dress that said this. Right. So
So the team you've built.
Oh, sorry.
Is a team.
You pulled my string, Phil. I just kept going randomly. Sorry. So yeah, the team. Jeff Poor is who we hired. Okay. So when we ended up going and we did a nationwide search to find our editor, and at the time Jeff was writing for us kind of on a part-time basis. And man, we found some kind of big fish out there in the editor world, and they all jumped on our website, and it's why isn't Jeff your editor? Like, well, he's not going to leave Breitbart to come be my editor. Well, lo and behold, that's exactly what he did. And so I went and interviewed him. And Jeff Poor is a guy that worked directly for Tucker Carlson, answered directly to Tucker.
Right.
Steve Bannon came and hired him away from Tucker to be an editor at Breitbart. And then I hired him away from there to come be an editor at 1819 News. And he's done a phenomenal job of doing hard news. And then we've got just an incredible team of reporters who've done amazing. Some of them were experienced reporters that we were able to pull away from other organizations. And then
Erica Thomas,
Daniel Taylor.
Yeah.
Caleb Taylor's the guy who moved from Arkansas to come here. Craig Monger is a guy that we trained up, in our organization. He had no journalism experience whatsoever. Highly intelligent, extremely intelligent, courageous. You take that combination and give him some training, and he goes out there and knocks it out of the park. So, but yeah, building a news team in this environment right now is very hard. Journalists don't grow on trees, and editors surely don't. And so,
and then conservative journalists, don't grow on trees.
And it's tough. And so, we have a vision to where we're going to go into other states, maybe some other states that are listening to this that wouldn't be able to appreciate 1819 News. Tennessee. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Tennessee. Okay.
And Tennessee, by the way, stand by. But you're talking to Tennessee right now,
yes.
So you know.
Yes.
Hey, we got to take a break right now. We're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, with Brian Dawson in studio, talking about your trusted agents. In a minute, we're going to get into some home fries. Going to cook up a batch of home fries, talk about stories that are happening in and around and amongst us. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. January 6th, you may think, Phil, is that old news? It's really not. I mean, it's a very new news. There are still things right now. There are still people recovering their lives. The pardons were just issued by President Trump just in the last few months. And there's still, in my opinion, a lot to get sorted. And I think we're going to start seeing some measure of accountability. And we'll see. We'll see. But I thought it'd be interesting. I've never had anybody on my show who was there that day. So I want to bring somebody on right now. So David Robinson's here in studio right now. David hails from the Athens region. And David was actually there that day. Oh, by the way, David is actually now also assisting us with sales here at Rightside. But David Robson, welcome to the Rightside studio, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate being here.
Well, appreciate you being here. And so you were there on January 6, 2021.
I was. Me and my wife, we were both there.
Okay. This is fascinating. I mean, I've watched any number of stories on it. I've read things on it. I've spoken about it. I've never talked to somebody who was there. So I guess I just want to go from soup to nuts here and figure out, what that was all like, and then what your thoughts were after the fact. All
right. Sounds good.
Let's break it down. I mean, so you and your wife, how'd y'all wind up getting? I mean, did you look at like 3 weeks in advance, said, let's plan a trip, honey? What do you want to do? And this is a big second honeymoon. I mean, what was this? Was this like a lark, or was it a planned out event?
It was not planned at all. My wife actually pushed me to go.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. So we were living in Athens at the time.
All right.
We moved to Athens in June 2020. We actually moved because COVID shut down Maryland so bad.
Yeah.
It was beyond cabin fever. We got to go.
So you were from Maryland. Okay.
My wife's from Maryland.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm from all over because I'm an Army brat.
Gotcha.
So, but we were visiting family back in Maryland, where my wife's family is from, around Christmas time, Christmas and New Year's. And she saw that January 6th was happening. She saw the announcement. She saw the speech lineup of who was going to be speaking. And she's like, let's go. I mean, we're an hour away. We were outside of Annapolis. Let's go. And I'm like, I mean, all the stuff going on in 2020 is really fresh.
Yeah. The summer of love, all the riots, everything.
Yes, exactly. I mean, do I want to take my wife somewhere that could be a riot and you get boxed in and you're not getting out? I mean, I know it's DC, but still it was really fresh. I mean, a lot went on in 2020.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So your wife has the idea, first of all, but then y'all just decided to get on a train, you drive in, what'd you do?
We took a train.
All right.
So I was thinking the traffic would be horrible. It would be rough getting in,
You're
getting
probably
out.
right.
So we took a train right outside of 495. First train. We were on the first train available. So we left really early. We was at the train station, and we took it to downtown DC, which is probably about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from the White House.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I've done those stations many times. So you guys get in there. Was there a crowd? Like, were you riding? Was the train full of people wearing MAGA hats? I mean, what was the deal? Was there like a crowd already forming?
No, there wasn't. I don't remember that much of the train ride there. I don't think there was that many people on the train. Very few, maybe a few commuters. It was still COVID, so it was still lockdown procedures.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even really remember masks. I brought mine. I was more nervous about other people getting it. That's just my heart for other people. We didn't know it was still
right.
And in Maryland, it was so bad. It was a big topic. We didn't want people falling out and dying.
So crowds weren't huge yet, but the crowds got big while you were there, though, right?
Yes, they did.
You got out there on the Washington Mall?
Yes. In between the Washington Monument and the White House, they had a stage set up in front of the White House. In those two areas, we got there probably before 8:00.
Oh wow, you got there early.
We did.
What time did the speeches start? I don't even remember.
I'm not even sure. I think the first speech was maybe 10:30.
Okay.
Something like that.
So how close to the stage were you?
100 yards, 200 yards.
I guess in a big event like that, that's not really far away. You're at a decent spot.
Correct. Yes.
All right. So lineup of speakers, including President Trump, right?
Yes. President Trump was speaking. We got there really early. There wasn't as many people, but they were trickling in. There was a lot of people trickling in. The space that we had in front of the Washington Monument started getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and there was a lot of people.
So let me ask you this. There's been a lot of talk, on the left, and we'll unpack it more here in a minute, but there's been a lot of talk on the left about, the angry mobs and the attempts to overthrow the government and all that. What was the mood of the crowd as you're standing there? Was it an angry crowd? Was it a crowd that was jazzed up? Was it a crowd that was just there to see what was going on? What'd you see?
It was a crowd. To me, it was one of the most patriotic events I've ever been to.
Okay. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. And we had one question for you. I'll take this one real quick. Your thoughts on this? I mean, I got my thoughts, but I'll say, Brian Dawson, you're my guest, so you take your thoughts. Tom with all the kids. By the way, y'all can relate to each other because we just call him Tom with all the kids.
Yeah.
He's got more than you, though.
Really?
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
17,
I think.
Well, he's only got 10 more than me.
Anyway, Tom with all the kids in Huntsville says, what do you do when your trusted news source becomes squirrely? He must have an experience here what do you do when your trusted news source becomes squirrely?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Phil Robertson, and he would probably say something about a squirrel leg, like they cook and eat squirrel legs in Louisiana, where my dad's from. And so when I think about anything getting squirrely, I immediately think, squirrel legs. So that would, I think the metaphor that's coming together from that is, if it gets squirrely, I would honestly say just take a break. Realistically, just like see, like, because if they've proven themselves to be trustworthy over time, and then there's like a hiccup, just take a break and come back. And if the hiccup's still there, then you wipe your hands of it.
And I would say if it's a trend, then yeah. But the other thing is too, if it's an isolated instance, if you see an incorrect story, if you see something that was done that you disagree with, you can always contact the editor. You can. I mean, whether they will read it or not, you never know. But I can tell you right now, as a former elected official, I contacted multiple news sources to set something straight. And there were a couple of times when I had to call and say, "Why is that your headline?" We do a story all about a great thing, but because a Democrat called me a name, that was the headline.
Yeah.
And so you can actually call and or send an email, and most of the sources you guys included have a way to send a contact point. And so that can be done too.
Yeah. And it's tough to build a news organization. It's easy and tough. And so I guess it's a double-edged sword building a news group in this environment. On one hand, if you tell the truth consistently, you're going to grow rapidly. But the flip side of that is that there's such a lack of trust in media right now.
Yeah.
That the moment that you actually become somewhat established and you begin to wield influence and have impact. The moment that you don't agree exactly with this person on this exact thing, on how that story should have been written, they're immediately like, you're getting paid off by the BCA.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, calm down. Again, trust is currency that's basically, earned over time, and consistency over time earns trust. And so, but I understand why people are ready to lay down the gauntlet if they disagree, because we have been burned by so many news organizations and so many news outlets that we once trusted. I even go back to Fox. Like, Fox News is the gold, quote unquote, gold standard on the right. But if you remember the 2020 election, they called Arizona before the polls were even closed, which means that they essentially contributed to
they took a lot of heat
what
for
took
that,
place.
And
they deserved it. And so that was when I basically, and then when they fired Tucker, at that point I was like, I've got, I'm sure that fellow that comes on in the evenings, it's kind of funny or whatever, Jesse Waters or whatever. I mean, that's great, but I'm going to go to YouTube to get my stuff now. But I'm also 40 and I'm a millennial. And so I don't have I call it the boomer IV drip, the Fox News IV drip. They just go up to their TV and they get the IV drip and they just put it in their vein and they just, Mark Levin.
Well, okay. See, that's the other thing too. I think you just mentioned something there. Sometimes it's also about how you relate to the source. So if it's a voice source, if it's like my show, I mean, people texting all the time and they're joking, but maybe they're not joking. They just can't do Dale Jackson's voice, in the mornings or whatever else. I can't do Mark Levin's voice more than about 5 minutes.
I can't do his face
because
either.
he's yelling at me the whole time.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's going to be the presentation does matter.
It does.
All right. Speaking of presentation does matter. So I guess I got to kick it off the right way. We got a minute. That's all we got. All right. Tell you what, then I will hold this story because I've got to compare and contrast between 1819 headline and an AL.com headline on the same topic. And you can already look over my shoulder here and tell me where you can tell where we're going. But in the bottom line is this, you guys, find your trusted source. We're going to spend some time breaking down actual stories, bantering about what we see, talking about the way things are going. But in the meantime, you guys find your sources. We're one. I believe that. 1819 News is one. I believe that. There are other sources out there for your national perspective or your international perspective or your military perspective or your business perspective. But find the ones you trust and then hang on to them. And then every once in a while, and here's the kicker. Every once in a while, I make myself go read what the opposite side is saying. Why? Well, there's a lot to be said for knowing what your enemy is saying. So sometimes I do go to see the Daily Beast. Oh my gosh. What is Mother Jones? I can't get past the headlines on Mother Jones most of the time, but most of the time I'm doing that just to make sure that I know where the narrative is building as so that I can counter it. And that's an important piece too, especially if you're looking for talking points. All right, we're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
People do
I think that there is a hardcore MAGA base that's going, woo, but I think that a lot of Americans, I think that Trump has overestimated the American electorate's capability. People do not like this. They don't like the idea of someone waiting to work and waiting to go and earn a wage and then just being detained by somebody in a mask. They don't like it. I'm telling you guys.
I'm just going to throw three things out there. Number one, 55% of the polls now say President Trump has gone too far with immigration policies. Only 40% of independents like the immigration policies that President Trump is doing. And when you say people in mainstream, I know it's South Park, but I want to play what South Park did last night just to give you a sense of what's out there in popular culture now. Watch.
Oh, my God.
All right, go ahead, Dan.
No, I was going to say, look, you cited a poll a minute ago about immigration policies, right? I think some of President Trump's immigration policies are very popular. Others, like some of the tactics being used, are not as popular.
And that's what South Park was pointing out there.
I agree with that.
I think on this particular thing in LA, it's in MacArthur Park, which if you talk to people around us in the federal government, they believe this is one of the MS-13 strongholds.
The Home Depot parking lot,
and
though?
this MacArthur Park neighborhood
is an actual park, and there was criminality there.
And this
I will
neighborhood
agree with that.
is in the clutches of MS-13, and they're pulling every lever they can think of to try to alleviate the control of MS-13 in an area where everybody seems to acknowledge, yes, it's a hotbed for an illegal, violent transnational criminal
If
gang.
anyone is MS-13, then everyone is MS-13.
Right. I mean,
If you want to give MacArthur Park a pass and just let it go, fine.
I think MacArthur Park all the time.
I think the American people voted for some immigration enforcement because there was none previously, and now there is some.
People were sold the false promise that violent criminals and dangerous people are going to get rounded up. Instead, day laborers are getting rounded up.
A lot of violent people are being
Going
rounded up.
a lot of these raids in LA have happened at Home Depot parking lots.
You cannot discount the fact
They've
that a lot
happened
of criminals are
outside of
being rounded up.
schools,
A lot of
literally
them.
as parents are dropping off their kids. You know what? Great. Let the Trump administration continue doing this. Seriously, go for it. Because that pendulum's going to swing right back to the far left when it comes to immigration policy. I promise you.
There's a statistic here from Track Immigration. 71% of current ICE detainees have no criminal convictions.
Other than the fact that they're in the country illegally.
Convictions.
Well, you guys said violent criminals. Remember, they knew everything. They told us how many undocumented people were in the country. They told us like what they had done, but they don't seem to know exactly who they're looking
There's
for.
got to be some level of nuance in this conversation, right? Which is some of this stuff is working. It's working. What he's doing at the border is working. Period.
Absolutely working.
And you can also, in that same sentence, believe that they go too far on some of these raids. I can say both those things in the same sentence. I can say, I think that what the Trump administration has done with regard to the border deserves an enormous amount of credit. And then I can also say that I think that they've gone too far in going after people who have no criminal record and don't even have, forget about criminal record, even have any suspicion of committing a crime.
Don't you think the two are linked? I think the internal enforcement in this country under Trump is why a lot of folks aren't trying to come here anymore, because they know when they come here, there's a really good chance the federal government is going to round them up and send them back. That was not the case under Biden. Internal enforcement is in and of itself a deterrent to people coming here in the first place.
And add one more thing to the fray here. A lot of the roundups you're seeing on the streets are because sanctuary cities will not allow them to do ICE detainers and walk into a jail and take the criminals out.
That's a fair point.
And they are having to round people up on the streets because they're given no other choice.
But again, saying they have to go after people, I just hope that they have that reasonable suspicion that we've been talking about. I hope they're not just going in and grabbing a bunch of people because they happen to be waiting outside the Home Depot looking to earn a living that
And I'll
day.
say this, if there's a conversation about immigration.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all have talked about this show. This one, goes like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I'm talking about all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. That's just you folks in radio land. And then, oh, by the way, there's a bunch of y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, live streaming the show every single day. And we can see the numbers. We know you're there. Live streaming it in places like Rumble and X and YouTube and Facebook and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then all you podcasters who catch it after the fact. I say all this every day to say, we know you're out there. We can see where you are. We thank you, because there's no other reason for us to get on this mic every day except for y'all. You're the reason why we do what we do, and we appreciate you. I'm back in studio right now with Brian Dawson, the Grand Poobah head guru over at 1819 News, which, by the way, is one of the trusted sources that I use all the time on the show. And I have for the whole 4 years you've been on. But I gotta do a thing here. So we're jumping to the Dipper number 2, but it's really in the same theme of what we're doing.
Sure.
But periodically, this show will talk about DC, the show will talk about international affairs, but then we got to talk about what's happening around here. And I call that literally looking around our own backyard, recognizing that what happens here sometimes matters more than what happens somewhere else. And that's what I call cooking up a batch of home fries, sizzling in the pan, smell them. Here's an example of a home fry, brother. I got 2 stories, both of them within 24 hours of each other, same topic. And I've got the story of Jabari Peoples. All right, for those who don't know, Jabari Peoples was a young man, a black man in Birmingham who resisted arrest, had a firearm apparently, and was shot fatally by a police officer. And it turned into a whole thing. And they just released the body cam footage the other day. Well, they actually released it for the family to see. They haven't released it to the public that I'm aware of. Two stories. One on 1819 is State Representative Wandling Gavan saying basically, you know what? You can't win at the traffic stop. And she wasn't really taking the side of police, but she was taking more of a, we got to start teaching these young kids they can't resist the cops. On the other side, AL.com, their top headline on the story, same day, was Jabari Peoples was actually running for his life as the police fatally shot him, says the family, even after they saw the body cam video that showed the other. Because that's what AL.com has been reporting all along, is that this was a fatal shooting. Your thoughts on the dichotomy of these two headlines?
It's infuriating, you know, and think of the race hustling that's been going on for so long. And you even go back to the Ahmaud Arbery thing that was a tragedy that happened over in Georgia. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
It was horrible, but the deception and again, being able to, we're talking about deciphering news sources, right? And so we want to give you kind of tricks of the trade so that you know what to look for. The moment they put up a 1986 glamour shots of a guy in a tuxedo that was the one that was shot by the cops, that guy was probably guilty, right? Because the more modern pictures, he might not look so nice, right? So that's just one trick of the trade. But they said that Ahmaud Arbery was out jogging through a neighborhood and was ran down and murdered. Well, he wasn't jogging. He was stealing stuff from houses, like stealing tools and stuff to sell or whatever, got caught and took off running. But for 2 weeks, he was jogging. And I had friends that went out and jogged, and they were jogging for Ahmaud. Okay. And so it's this idea of how, but we've been desensitized to it. Now we're starting to see through it. And I'm glad that we can at least see through this one. And again, the jury was out. We didn't know. Nobody knew. Aaliyah was reviewing it, right? And you had all these people that are like, we're going to burn down Homewood and Vestavia if you don't show us this video. Rah! Well, we already know when they show you the video, you're going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
You're not about justice. You want to burn down Vestavia and you want to burn down Homewood and you want to burn down town. Like, that's what you want to do. And it doesn't matter what that video shows. You're still going to want to do that because you feel that there was some injustice done. Turns out, actually, and again, I haven't seen the video. My understanding of what the video shows is that he ran for his life back to a vehicle and grabbed a gun.
And then resisted arrest.
Yeah.
And then got shot.
And as I always say, back in my day when I was doing drugs and running from cops, okay, you knew you were going to get beat up when you got, if you ran, you were going to get the tax, which was getting beat up. So that was the risk you took. But you certainly never resisted because you knew that it would go wrong. It was just understood, but that's gone. Okay. Those days are gone. Now you can run and get a gun and you know, and you're still running for your life.
According to AL.com.
According to AL.com. Commie, AL.com, as I call them.
I hold in my callous former paratrooper hands. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what's so frustrating is I'm looking at the same story, two different sources in the same state. And they're not in the same wavelength. They're not in the same plane. And I think I find over and over again that AL.com seeks to inflame with clickbait that centers left or far left. The Ahmaud Arbery, by the way, one of the things that really, if I'm thinking of the right case, that was Atlanta. Yeah.
That was over in Georgia. Yeah.
Over in Georgia. One of the things I remember about Ahmaud Arbery's story is at the end of it all, at the press conference where you're thinking what you're about to hear is more of this kind of crap that we see on AL.com.
Yeah.
That the father of Ahmaud Arbery says, what I want now is for everyone to calm down and we're not going to go and riot. Yeah. We're not going to do that stuff. And you're not going to use my son's name like that.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking he just defused it.
Yeah.
And pretty much it did. There was still angst, but the reality is you've got people right now, after seeing the video in this story from AL.com, that are still determined to inflame the situation.
Of course they are.
Even though they've already got the proof in their hands.
And they want to, and again, it's that objective truth, objective good thing that I talked about when I came on. This is what they're doing is objectively bad. They're trying to take something that is bad and they're trying to give it attention so that it leads to negative actions that would be objectively bad. Another headline comparison that we pointed out one time that was brought to us. There was a Dothan outlet, another, and again, insert whatever mainstream media outlet, you know, WSFA in Montgomery, AL.com, it's all the same. Okay. So any of these mainstream media outlets, but one of them, the headline read, Dothan man sleeps with underage girl. 1819 news, illegal alien rapes 12-year-old stepdaughter.
Oh,
Little bit different in the headlines, isn't it?
Oh, was that the Dothan Eagle? What
Yeah,
was that?
it was either the Dothan Eagle or it was the W blah 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 that's in Dothan, WDHN or whatever.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
that's just gross.
Yeah, but I mean that's
deliberate. There's no way around that. That's
Yes.
deliberate. There's no way they slipped that headline through it. Oh my gosh, that was deliberate.
It's all narrative formation. And think when people are getting hit from every different direction, if there's not an 1819 to say actually illegal alien raped 12-year-old stepdaughter, that's what happened.
Speaking of which, do we know in the Bibb County tragedy, do we know yet whether that guy was illegal? The guy, the ringleader who was apparently part of a Sicario gang or something that was.
Yeah, there was a Serranos. So Serranos, that's yeah. So there was a connection. Don't know if he was illegal. Serranos, for the most part, again, and in my area of expertise is gangs from Colorado, which is Serranos in California, are typically what's called Chicano. And Chicano means that you're a Mexican American, you're not. And so the Serranos were typically Chicano. We called the Paisas were the ones that were the over the border people. Paisano mean Paisa. Anyway.
So we don't know what that guy's status is though right now.
No, it hasn't been said one way or the other that he's illegal or legal. So
all right. Next story. During the break, it wasn't on air. I don't believe it was. There was we were talking about how you brought it up that comedians these days are a lot of times a source of cultural impact. Sometimes
and
even
truth.
news and sometimes providing clarity where people don't want the clarity because they'll speak truth.
Yep.
We were talking about some of the funniest things we've seen. Like to me, one of the landmark moments was Ricky Gervais at the Emmy Awards.
Yeah.
Was it Academy Awards or Emmy
Grammy?
Awards?
I think it was Grammys.
Grammys. That was just so spot on perfect.
Yeah.
You were talking about Shane Gillis at the ESPYs.
Shane Gillis at the ESPYs, or even just Tim Dillon on a normal day, right? This is a guy. If you can, again, I don't highly recommend. He's got a lot of vulgarity and talks about disgusting stuff, but I usually catch his clips, and the clips are usually the clips of where he's going on truth bombs in a very humorous way, but he's pointing out the thing that's the elephant in the room that nobody else wants to talk about, and he's got facts to back it up.
Dave Chappelle on the transgender movement has been hilarious.
He saved stand-up comedy. I almost wanted to write an op-ed that was going to be called "Let My People Joke." Okay. And it's Dave Chappelle is basically the comedic Moses who freed comedians again, because what do they call what's the word that with political correctness, PC had so handcuffed stand-up comedians for so many years that stand-up comedy was just about dead. And you got one guy that you couldn't cancel if you wanted to, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, greatest stand-up comedian of all time, in my opinion, Dave Chappelle, knowing he can't be canceled, goes on his Netflix special and just goes hard in the paint on the trannies, brings them to the mat, and then from that moment forward, stand-up comedy's back, baby. And guess what? They're all trending right wing now. Shane Gillis and Theo Vaughn and all these other guys, they're moving to the right, which means we're winning the culture war.
Well, here's an interesting dynamic. You guys have an article right now.
Yeah.
Michael Rappaport, which, by the way, is not a conservative. He's not, but he is absolutely 100% a defender of Israel.
Yeah.
I think he's Jewish himself, isn't he?
Yes.
So Michael Rappaport, actor and comedian, was supposed to play at the Stardome Comedy Club in Hoover. And the Stardome put out a message saying they had canceled the show, and they admit they canceled it because of his support for Israel. Am I right? You guys reported that.
I think it was, so it wasn't his support for Israel. So they canceled it because there was threats from anti-Israel people, right? And so there was a drummed up.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
It wasn't about silencing anyone. It was about avoiding a potentially volatile situation. So
I think Bruce Ayers is the guy's name or whatever that owns the club that we reported on. I think he was probably, if I had to guess, he was probably put in a bad situation where the manager probably called and is like, hey, Michael's stuff is getting canceled all over the place because of these threats coming from these crazy, like, pro-Palestinian people that are burning, like that group. Okay. Is calling and trying to shut down Michael Rappaport things all over the country.
It's where you hire security and do the show.
And do the show anyway. The show must go on is what they say, right, Phil?
Absolutely. By golly. We got other stories. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back, and we're just going to kick off a couple things. I do want your opinion on, I'm going to go north of the border since you guys are looking at Tennessee anyway.
Yes, sir.
Going north of the border and talk about Marsha Blackburn. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Conversation would be comprehensive. You talk about asylum judges. You talk about all different types of structural things that you could change to make this easier and more fluid. Now, if your thrust is political, where you are trying to make the words of Stephen Miller or other far-right MAGA talking heads come true and remove the undesirables and purify the blood of the country, then you do it the way that you're doing it.
Brother.
But these are the things. They don't say these types of things.
They don't sit around. They don't sit around going, "Let's purify the blood of the country."
They don't say these types of things.
No,
they absolutely do.
Was it good or bad?
Purify the blood. They absolutely do.
Stephen Miller literally talked about suspending habeas corpus, right? Essentially stripping even American citizens of an incredibly important constitutional right because he thinks that there's an invasion in the country. So we need to, basically do away with constitutional rights in order to get rid of every undocumented.
There was an invasion of the country. Let's look at it. It's part of the downfall of Rome. If you look at the history, one of the issues that led.
Let me do this. You know what I'm going to say? You know what I'm going to say is the one thing that will absolutely change the dynamic of the situation is Superman. Listen to Dean Cain, who at one point played Superman, the TV version, saying he's joining ICE.
I will be sworn in as an ICE agent ASAP. So they'll have 80,001 recruits for their 10,000 positions.
Well, they can't have a better guy than Dean Cain. Are you going to be hopping out of ICE fans and apprehending guys?
I will do whatever Director Lyons wants me to do. If that's what it takes, absolutely.
With a cape on.
There's a massive amount of recruitment going on because they now have a huge amount of money to hire new ICE
in
agents.
the Superman community.
And so,
I mean, that's Dean.
But I'm just telling you, like,
he's effectively going to be an honorary sheriff.
But having someone like that out touting it, talking about, hey, this is a thing you can do for your government. This is public service. It's going to help them recruit, and they have a bunch of people to recruit.
Scott, it's not 95. Nobody gives a Sam hell what Dean Cain
You
does.
may not. In the conservative community,
Dean ain't worked in a while. Dean needs the 50,000. That's what got Dean off the couch. Dean ain't worked in a while. Dean gonna take that money and buy some crypto with it. Dean needs the 50. That's what Dean is on.
You don't think this is serious, Dean Cain?
Look, I think it's like he says, I'm getting sworn in, right? When you talk about getting sworn in, he's not really going to be an ICE, right? He's going to go on some ICE raids. He'll be, an honorary member, et cetera. But look, but Scott's right. Look, there is a real money to recruit ICE agents. Yeah. Let's hope that means that the quality is going to continue to go up.
But that's the point, right? Do we know for sure they're expanding these ages, letting in people that may not have been let before? Do you feel like the standards are there?
Well, I hope they are. I mean, look, always with law enforcement, you hope that the standards are higher, right? The better departments have the higher standards.
I will just say, Republicans right now are trying to recruit and give bonuses to people who want to serve in ICE. And Democrats right now and people on the left are encouraging violence against people who want to serve in ICE.
They are?
And are putting them in harm's way every day.
How
so
exactly?
The two parties and how they're treating ICE agents right now, I think Republicans embracing recruitment of ICE and Democrats encouraging maybe violence.
So we're just going to make a declarative statement like that without providing a single shred of evidence.
You have not seen the myriad stories of ICE agents.
Okay,
Democrats every day are calling them the Gestapo. Do you think that helps or hurts?
Well, they do act like Gestapo when they're showing up.
Now you're doing it.
Well, they are. They're just showing up.
I assume you condone the violence.
Penske trucks.
Do you condone the violence?
Home Depot. I don't want my tax dollars going to that garbage, okay? Those people do not deserve to be treated that way simply because they might be undocumented.
Do the ICE agents deserve to be having violent acts committed, rocks thrown at them?
No, they
people
don't.
Trying to
they don't.
Kill
and
them?
Those people who do that get arrested, and they should be arrested.
And why don't they
don't get arrested?
Because they've been told the ICE agents are Gestapo.
Have you considered the fact that in a city like Los Angeles that has a massive immigrant community, when they see their mothers or fathers or family members rounded up, that leads to a lot of rage, and they retaliate. I'm not saying they should. That is criminal. They should not assault a police officer. Let me just tell you something. Someone messes with my family, I get violent. Okay, that's how I feel about family.
Good to know.
I protect family. So don't be surprised when people feel angry when they feel that there's a bunch of feds in their city invading their city,
there's a violent streak
going
in the country
after
right
people
now
who are just day laborers that are Home Depot parking lot.
That's dangerous talk, though, with regard to law enforcement in
No,
general. Because you can make that argument about
please.
anything with law enforcement, which is, all right, so law enforcement came in, they arrested someone at my house, they got the wrong person, and I am mad, and as a result, I'm going to now
get to be rageful?
Well, no, I mean, look, you can be mad.
It leads to unrest. It leads to a ton of
No,
unrest.
it's more than that. They are physically attacking.
And by the way, it is
was an 800% increase in attacks on ICE agents.
Van, last word that we're going to go to break.
You guys, I can't do the holier than thou thing. The first story we did was about a guy on video calling for the killing of police officers.
Exactly.
He's got a job at the DOJ. And Trump, you guys is golden.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, hey, don't forget, coming up here in the next few minutes after the next break, we jump on into the Friday afternoon special with JP on sports. In the meantime, I'm wrapping up a batch of home fries. Cook me up some home fries there, brother. Yeah. Smell them. All right, we got a Tennessee audience too. And I got to address this news that broke just in the last couple of days. I pulled this one off of Fox. I hope you don't mind. I pulled it off Fox. U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn now running for governor of Tennessee. Let me get your thoughts. Now, first of all, I got two pieces of the story. One is her running, and the other is who's running in her place to take her seat as a U.S. Senator, because one of my favorites is, or thinking about it. But your thoughts right now on Marsha Blackburn now looking at going to the governorship, just like Tommy Tuberville?
Yeah, I think Ron DeSantis kind of set the standard for what a good governor can do for an important state.
No doubt.
And when you see that kind of leadership and what that can do, you look at Coach Tuberville, he's, and everyone, when he was talking about running, was like, well, he's part of the most exclusive club in the world. He's one of 100. I said, he's a Division I football coach. He's one of one.
Yeah.
Okay. And he wants to be the executive. He doesn't want to be one of 100. That probably drives him nuts that there's 99 other people that get their say in what's going on. He wants to come back and be the executive. And so, yeah, it's cool to be in the Senate or whatever. But if you're going to spend your last remaining years doing something that's going to make a radical difference, governor's how you do it. It's not United States Senator. And so Coach Tuberville saw that. It sounds like Marsha Blackburn understands that. And good for her. Trump allies coming back to be governors and doing the type of work that Ron DeSantis did in Florida, doing it in their respective states. I think that's the reason for 1819 News, right? Is it's statewide, state focused, and that's why we want to change our state. And if you get 50 states to change, your country's changed. If you get 37 states to change, you're
and something you just said too. I think what we're watching right now, I think that Trump's fight to be the chief executive has straightened a lot of spines.
Yep.
I think there are people like Tuberville. There are people. I don't know that he would not have done it otherwise. I mean, he was already getting there even before Trump had won the election. But I think Nancy Mace is looking at running for governor of South Carolina. We got Marsha Blackburn running here. We got Tuberville here. And I'm just looking at this thinking, I really believe that we're in an era right now where people have seen and Ron DeSantis, what he's done, like you mentioned. I've said multiple times, watching him during COVID was like a lessons learned every day of how you can run a state. Watching him battle Disney, my gosh. But yeah, I look at this and think this is people realizing the chief executive does matter.
Yeah.
I think Alabama's been missing that for a while. Holy cow. I think one day we're going to find out we have the other Biden situation going on right here in Alabama.
We absolutely do. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an auto pin in Alabama.
It's disappointing. All right, so Marsha Blackburn, a very conservative, Trump supporting U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville also, and you see what the race is happening here. We got the race filling up, now in Alabama to replace Tuberville in the U.S. Senate, and then we're going to have a U.S. Senator seat in Tennessee. Right now, Representative Andy Ogles and Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett,
yeah,
he's one of my favorites.
Yes,
that guy is like Mr. Soundbite.
Yeah,
but they're saying right now, according to Fox, that Tennessee Republican Tim Burchett has openly expressed his interest in the seat, and so did Ogles. Ogles said absolutely when he was asked to consider. Burchett said that situation's a long ways off, but he did confirm he was looking at it.
Yeah,
that tells me a lot right there. I mean, I think Tim Burchett's awesome.
Yeah, I love Tim Burchett. That was as soon as you were talking about people in Tennessee that could potentially run. He's the guy. He's like is that Kennedy from Louisiana?
He's like John Kennedy from Louisiana.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very similar.
Which I don't know if John Kennedy has a book of quotes that he refers to before he does every interview.
Yeah.
Or if he just makes them up on the fly.
I think he just comes up with the craziest thing you could possibly say and then recites it and then lets it rip when there's a camera. But It'd be interesting too, like some of the former governors of Tennessee, if any of them would be interested in the U.S. Senate seat. Like, what is that something that you like a Bob Riley would have ran for Senate, or like is that something that you could see with like a Bill Haslam or something? Would he potentially run for Senate? Or I think is Bill Lee the governor there right now?
Yeah, leaving.
And so maybe he runs for it. Who knows?
I think it's going to be a full slate, but I think we got a good slate. Speaking of good slates, everybody expects here in Alabama that U.S. Representative Barry Moore is going to jump into the U.S. Senate race.
I feel like August 15th, there's a big announcement coming.
I think there's something happening on August 15th. In fact, I've also heard that there's another announcement from Jerry Carl from Mobile.
Now, did you see? There was a story trending somewhere. I don't remember. It wasn't on 1819. I feel like I saw that Heather Moore. They did a poll, and Heather Moore was beating Jerry Carl in that race. Now, again,
what, really?
I saw that in passing. I didn't even see where it was from. But isn't that interesting? Wouldn't that
for
be
those
crazy?
Who don't know, that's Barry Moore's wife.
Yes, and where they're always together. She's awesome. She's sharp.
Yeah,
she's she could do the right side radio thing, solid conservative and just plain right. Like that's Heather Moore. Okay, she's awesome, man, and she's something. And those two together, they're always together. It would be interesting because that was my thing is like, okay, if Barry gets into the Senate race, you're gonna lose him in District 1.
Yep.
And I I'm a Barry guy, right? Like when and to lose him as a congressman, it's like but then all of a sudden if Heather runs in there, it's like, well,
has there ever been a husband and wife team?
I don't think I've never and I don't know if she's even really thinking about it, but it's funny to talk about on the radio.
Jerry Carl is quaking in his boots right now.
Yeah, I bet he is. I mean, and Heather's a force. Yeah. And so love Barry and Steve Marshall. I don't know what to do there because they're both like my favorite people. And, Tuberville, Marshall, and Barry Moore are like my favorite people in the government in our state. They're at that upper echelon. Of course, there's people like Ernie and Andrew and stuff like that. But at that higher level, those are the best. And unfortunately, we're going to lose one.
Well, that's about enough of home fries. I'm out of time on that anyway. We're going to jump into JP on sports in just a moment and catch all the latest. Don't forget, when JP does sports, by the way, we break it down into 2 rounds. He's got the 3 and out followed by the 2-minute warnings. So we'll jump into all of it after the break. Set aside some of the usual news and see what's going on in the world of sports with a conservative twist added to it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
To the 8808 rally. I think it was the Tea Party rally,
okay.
or it might have been a pro-life rally. And it was everybody there just to, for me, I was there to pray. I was there to pray, protest. We didn't agree with the vote, but the crowd was chanting USA. I jumped in with them. I mean, we're just, there was massive flags, probably, just a rough estimate, 100-foot by 200-foot flag that we were, 20, 30, 40, 50 people had to hold on to and going through the crowd. And people were making space for it was cheering on America. It was patriotic. We were there to honor our president, but also to protest that we didn't agree with what was going on.
Yeah, with the way the vote went down and all
yes.
that. JP's got some pictures he's putting up on the screen right now. And you took these pictures too, am I right?
I did.
Yeah. And some of these are videos and all that. So, I mean, I see signs saying stop the steal, but was there anybody in there yelling down with the USA, let's overthrow the government? I mean, did you see any weapons? I mean, was it like that at all?
No, I didn't see any weapons. I saw a lot of riot gear. I saw quite a few bulletproof vests. A lot.
Really?
Yes.
People came suited up a little bit?
They came ready because they weren't sure what was going to happen as far as rioting, as far as the other riots that were going on that year.
Because of the way the BLM have been doing all that?
Yes.
So you don't think they were there like ready for their own riot? They were there in case things got ugly because of counter protesters?
Exactly.
All right. At some point, did you get to know other people in the crowd that you didn't know before?
I did. Yes. There was a couple of people that were getting close to us. Ashley Babbitt was one of them. My uncle Dennis talked to her more. I've even got a video with her talking in the background. She's talking to him. He was a Navy man. He was on a couple of submarines during the Cold War.
Yeah.
And but he was talking to her, and I talked with her for a little bit. I don't think I prayed with her, but I got to know her story, that she was from California. She was Air Force, and she she said California was more red than the media makes it out to be.
It's amazing how much red is in California, but it's overwhelmed by these big cities like LA and Oakland and San Diego and all that. But well, so Ashley Babbitt, all right, we'll talk about her more in a minute, but she's one of the tragedies of the day, obviously. But before we get to that point, you're in this crowd, right? And this is the crowd that we've heard about. We've seen pictures of. Your pictures keep coming up on the screen periodically as we're talking for our live stream audience. Is there ever a time in the crowd where you personally felt threatened by the crowd? Was it scary to be there, or did you feel like you were among people of a like mind?
Not at the beginning. Before the speeches, I didn't, other than just, hey, this could erupt at any point because of the past riots. But before the speeches, I didn't feel much tension or nervousness. It was more patriotic. Let's cheer. Let's, hear, USA, USA. But after the speeches and the herd moved to the Capitol building, that's where I started feeling a little bit more tension. And there was you could hear a string of voices. Mike Pence didn't do it. Mike Pence didn't do it. Mike Pence didn't do it. And this was, I don't know the timing, maybe 11, 12 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah.
And then it's when it just felt a little.
You feel the tension in the crowd?
It felt different. And it was a little bit later on when nobody's cell phones were working. They were shut off. Whatever they were using, technology was shut off.
Wow.
So from the train to the White House, no cell phone signals, gone for everyone. But when the tensions changed after everybody was saying that Vice President Mike Pence didn't do it, that
meaning certify the vote.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
He certified the vote. Yeah,
exactly. Everyone got a notification. Everybody's phone started alarms going off. And so nobody's phone is working. All of a sudden it goes off and it says the National Guard is coming in.
Who said that?
The alert. So it was a national alert. It was emergency alert. First alert, whatever system they were using to get to everybody's phone was the National Guard is coming in. It's time to disperse.
So I don't recall that. So at what point were you already at the Capitol building when everybody got this notice on their phones that the National Guard's coming?
Yes. And that could have been after the first person went into the Capitol.
All right. So let me ask you this before we go to the break. You can see how radio flies by. I mean, we're talking and I just looked over and realized it's almost time for a break already. Real quickly before we go to the break. Was there ever a time during the speeches where you felt like you were being told to go do something destructive or rioting at did any of the speakers, including President Trump, did they ever say to you, get on down there and tear something up, get on down there and interrupt government? Did that ever happen?
No, not at all. It felt completely peaceful. Like, we're going to stand up for what we believe in. And I would say a third of the people probably couldn't make it up the steps if they wanted to. They were disabled veterans. They were just there to, support our president and say that we don't believe in the vote.
Wow. All right. This is fascinating to me. All right. We're taking a break right now. I've never had anybody sit here and tell me their firsthand experience of being there. So David Robinson's in studio with us right now. David Robinson was at January 6th. We're going to keep talking to him when we get back from the break. All right, so we're sitting back here in studio right now talking to David Robinson. He was there on the events of January 6th. He's a new member of the Rightside team. He's going to be doing sales with us. And we just got a chance to sit down together and just sort of go through all the details of what he's going to be doing with sales. But at the same time, I learned as we're getting to know each other most recently that, oh, by the way, he was there January 6th. And I thought, well, by golly, I've been wanting to do a summary of that event because the pardons are still pretty fresh. And in my opinion, we're watching all the Russia collusion stuff fall apart. We're seeing all the other narratives coming out of the Biden administration era that obviously weren't grounded in truth and were designed in some ways to undermine or at the very least to weaponize. And I think, you know what? I don't think we're through here in the end of, hopefully, the end of accountability for what was done to people because of the day of January 6th. Were there some things that happened that were wrong? Yes, there were. Was all 1,500 people deserving of having their lives upended? Was it worth turning the entire FBI inward on this whole case and setting aside investigations that were more prescient and timely and in need of attention? No. And I look at all of this and think, my gosh. And then the liberal media just beat us up for years over it. And then you had the whole Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney betrayal, leaving the Republicans behind to go ahead and join the Nancy Pelosi Jan 6 commission. The whole thing was just a debacle. That being said, David Robinson's right here with me.
Yes,
he was there. All right. So, David, let me ask you, the speeches are concluded, and there's this sort of human wave of walking down, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number three on a Friday. Hour number three on a Friday, and that means only one thing can happen now. We run into this segment we call JP on Sports because JP, who does an amazing job of being our producer and our production manager here at Rightside, he also is a sports guru, like all things sports, like things I've never heard of before. He can lay it right down there where the baby goats can get to it. And he also puts a conservative spin on some of this stuff too. So he also, oh, by the way, has the best sound effect of the entire show, courtesy of a group of sorority girls at Auburn. Play it. It's the best one. All right, first round is called the 3 and Out. Top 3 stories as you see it in the world of sports. JP, take it away.
Well, the biggest story in the sports world this week has been this massive deal ESPN has made. There's a lot of people excited about it, but there's also some downsides that worry people like myself. However, I'll say the upsides to this are, this is in congruence. They're opening up this new streaming service that will encompass everything ESPN does. Essentially, it's a way for people who are moving away from cable or didn't have a lot of ESPN services through cable in the first place. They can get everything ESPN in this new service, and it'll only be $30 a month. So they announced that, but then now they have bought NFL Network from the NFL. So now not only will ESPN have all this new, people watching through their streaming service, but now all of the games that ESPN didn't have, the NFL Network had, ESPN now has. So that gives them a lot more access to the NFL. However, there's a lot of people worried because there's one big part of this. I think the greatest invention in cable television history is NFL Red Zone. I think it is the greatest thing ever made.
Are we losing that too to ESPN?
Well, no, we're not losing it. However, I think ESPN may ruin it a little bit because the part of the red zone that intrigues so many people is not only that you get access to every NFL game going on. We're jumping from this game to the next game. Like you get you got eyes on all the games on one channel. It's also commercial-free football. The big thing of it is it's 7 hours of commercial-free football. They started to flirt with some commercials last year because they realized how big it's getting. Now that ESPN owns it, can you imagine the amount of commercials that are going to be stuffed into NFL Red Zone? And people are worried that they're just totally going to butcher NFL Red Zone, and that NFL Red Zone got too big, and now ESPN's going to buy it and they're going to ruin it. So who knows? Hopefully they don't. It's still here for now, but also there's a part of this. Disney and WWE kind of made a deal here, so now ESPN for the next 5 years will be hosting WWE pay-per-views moving forward. So
is ESPN getting back to its roots more now?
In what way?
I mean, are they going to really are they going to get away from allowing some of the commentary they've been having that was so controversial and just start diving into sports, and they're building this network out for that?
I think they're going to be woke no matter what, as long as Disney's involved in it. However, I do think this is smart by them because me personally, I haven't used cable in forever. Like I use YouTube TV, but I watch it to watch my teams. Like pretty much that's it. So this is a perfect option for ESPN of moving away from cable, and the amount of people that are going to be pouring into ESPN's streaming platform. If ESPN owns like pretty much the sports streaming altogether, like that's a great move to this new era of streaming, I think, for them. And also they're smart to get Red Zone because, like I said, I mean, it may be the most popular sports channel in the world. So, we'll see. Hopefully they don't ruin it and make it nothing but commercial football.
And I have a feeling you're going to have a subscription sometime soon.
Yes, more than likely.
You'd
be correct.
All right. That's one. What's two?
So there's a story in MLB that I find really interesting that is starting to pick up steam. And a lot of people aren't talking about it as much, but I think it's fascinating and kind of funny, actually. So sign stealing in MLB is starting to become...
it's a science.
Well, it's starting to become mainstream again because everybody remembers the Astros scandal where it wasn't a sign stealing. It was a sign stealing operation, essentially. They had cameras in center field. They were banging trash cans. They had apparently buzzers and vibration stuff tied to chests so that people can, get signals that way. But now, ever since that happened, we've switched to a comm system to where the pitcher has an earpiece in his ear and the catcher does too. And the coach is pretty much calling signals in the earpiece and there's no signs being relayed to steal. However, now we're starting to see players when they're on second base looking at the grip of the ball in the pitcher's glove and actively doing hand signals to the batter to what pitch is coming. And it's funny because that's technically not illegal.
No, it's actually smart.
It's technically not illegal, but because it's not illegal, they're not even hiding that they're doing it anymore. Actually, I was at the Braves-Yankees game. I didn't notice it while I was live. I saw it was a big story afterwards of there's a big home run made in the Braves game. And before that, the guy on second was making hand signals to tell him what he was literally looking in the glove, wasn't hiding the fact he was looking in the glove, giving a hand signal, and then the home run was then hit. That was a big pivotal point in the game. And the Braves coach from the dugout was yelling at the guy on third base at that point, and then just this week, we saw another instance of it, of a player stealing signs. The pitcher notices it, intentionally balks so that that runner can move to third. And after the inning, bench is cleared because the pitcher went after the runner who on third and, got into actually the third base coach. Little League, the Little League World Series is going on right now. We had an ejection in the Little League. I think it's the regional part where the coach got ejected because the players were actively stealing signs from second base. And after they got warned 3 times, the coach got ejected for it. So we have another sign stealing. Yes. We have another sign stealing epidemic right now, apparently. And when I was in middle school, we were stealing signs. My coach was helping us steal signs. We had a guy in the dugout designated for sign stealing in high school. It's just a thing that's part of the game. However, if it's going to become so inflammatory and so blatantly obvious that you're stealing signs, I think something needs to be done. I think it needs to be illegal so that you got to earn it. You got to earn your sign stealing. You got to hide it. It needs to be a skill. And if you get caught and you get punished. But the whole blatant, we're going to wave our arms and, blatantly show that we're stealing your grip, what pitches come in. That stuff needs to stop. But I think it's hilarious because it's always been a part of the game, but I've never seen it so blatantly obvious like it is right now.
Just jumping up and down at second base.
And we got benches clearing over it and everything. So I think MLB needs to make it illegal and make players earn it again. Like the Astros, at least, it was awful, the stupid what they did, but at least they earned it. They hit it. They hit what they were doing. So I don't know. I'd like to see MLB get out in front of it.
That's hilarious. Okay. All right. That's 2. All right. We're already down to 3. What's 3?
We had NFL preseason now starting up in full swing. We had first 3 games last night besides the Hall of Fame game where the Colts lost 16-24 to the Ravens. We also had the Bengals and the Eagles. But we also had the Raiders and the Seahawks. This game actually ended in a tie. But we saw Jalen Milroe get his first passing opportunities in the NFL game where he came in. He didn't start, but he came in, was 6 of 10 for 61 yards. Also, Robbie Oots, who was a tight end at Alabama, came in and got a pass from Milroe. He had 1 catch for 17 yards in the game. But a lot of people are saying if Milroe can get in an offensive system that can use his athleticism, he's not going to come in and start right away. But I watched the clips personally. I thought Milroe looked a lot more confident passing the ball than he did at Alabama. I think if the coaches can coach him up, get him behind somebody that he can learn the ropes of the NFL, and who knows, we could see some like wildcat formations with Milroe and the Seahawks if they could use his legs. A lot of people thought he was the best runner and best athlete in the past NFL draft. So I thought I saw a lot of great things from Milroe last night. Like I said, he probably won't see the field much this year. But moving forward, who knows? The Seahawks can build up his confidence. We could be seeing more Milroe throughout the year. Maybe he'll be an NFL starter one day. Who knows?
All right, that's good. And we got a little time for overtime here. So let me ask you, wasn't there a major injury in the Ravens game last night?
There was.
Awful, wasn't it?
I don't think it was caught on TV. I'm not sure if that game was televised. However, I did see it on Twitter of, unfortunately, this guy's leg pointing completely sideways on after pick, which is very unfortunate.
Season ender,
and
right?
NFL preseason, more than likely season ending. I haven't seen anything new on that today. But yeah, it wasn't even televised. Like I said, if that one fan wasn't filming it in the stands, nobody would have really seen it. Besides people there, obviously. But yeah, that's very unfortunate.
Very much so. All right, I can't believe we're in football already.
I know.
But you know what? I can't also believe that today that the high is like 82 degrees. It feels awesome outside right now.
Okay, we're in the false fall though right now. This is the tease.
Don't get your hopes up.
And then you'll get hit with summer, and then it's fall.
It's faux fall.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's the 3 and out right now. That's round 1 of JP on Sports. We come back and we jump into the next phase. It's called the 2-minute warning. He gets 2 minutes on different topics. I got a timer and a buzzer. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. I mean, was it like watching a zombie movie where they come running in a pack, or was it those people walking orderly down there? What was the deal?
They were walking orderly. It wasn't like I know I mentioned the herd. It wasn't like The Walking Dead or anything like that as far as a herd, but it was people helping people get there because there was a lot of disabled vets, because I talked to a lot of them.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of people in wheelchairs. You got a lot of people a lot of flags, and it was a peaceful walk from the Washington Monument, the White House, where everybody was gathered, to the Capitol building, and there
was there security? Did you see security like typically you would see the Capitol Police and the Park Police and others, be out in a presence around the area, setting up barricades and wearing uniform. Were you seeing any of that anywhere? Was that just like gone?
Gone. I didn't hardly
Really?
see any security. Probably, I'm sure there was around President Trump's stage. I'm sure the security was huge there.
Secret Service at the very least. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But when I got off the train early that morning, I only saw 2, maybe 3 guards at the Treasury. When they're always there, but no police, 0 police.
Wow.
And they know, because if you're tracking phones, you're tracking possibly 1 million people coming to DC.
Yeah.
Around every every decision maker for the country, right there in one spot at one time, and you've got 1 million people, and there's no security presence for hours. I didn't see a single guard except for at the Treasury.
Of course, the National Guard never showed up, but you got an alert. And who issued the alert? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure.
Is it like an EMA kind of thing?
Yes, that's what it seemed like.
Wow. All right. So you guys, in mass, are walking towards the U.S. Capitol from the mall. So you're walking from the Washington Monument straight down to the Capitol. And then how long was the walk for you, like getting there? What do you think?
20 minutes.
Okay, 20 minutes.
Something like, because there's a lot of people.
Oh, that's right. There's a lot of people in the length of the mall too.
Yes.
All right. So you get down there to the Capitol building. And is that when the signal came through on your phones about National Guard?
No, it was probably about an hour later. We kind of settled down. We actually went through a barricade. I didn't realize it at the time because a large group of people had already gone through. But it looked like a barricade that was set up for the inauguration.
Okay.
So they were just making it just looked like simple barricades.
It wasn't really slowing anybody down.
Exactly. No guards at it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe there was earlier when the first, group of people got there. Maybe, I don't know if they might have been 15 minutes ahead of me or 5.
You see anybody getting rowdy?
No, nobody getting rowdy. But it was a few megaphones getting some people stirred up. There was definitely some horns, some masks. There was a group of people with the different gear that was. There was actually a line of people walking through the crowd, and they were saying, "Follow us to go in." And this was after everyone was saying the vote wasn't certified by Vice President Mike Pence.
Okay.
So there was a line of guys and ladies, and I don't know, but they were marching.
Just in civilian clothes, just like, okay.
Well, civilian clothes and possibly riot gear, and there was definitely a guy with horns on his head.
Oh yeah, you saw the shaman.
Yes.
Yes. So there's some folks saying, "Come on, we're going inside, going inside."
Yes.
Right, so
exactly.
All right, that's a little that takes on a slightly different feel.
Yes.
What were you and your wife thinking at this point? I mean, you're looking at this going, I don't know about this.
I was looking at it like that. Yes. So let's keep our distance so we can see what's going on, but let's get ready to get out of here, because if this crowd starts packing in and we can't get out, it could get really bad.
Well, we're going to take a break right now. We're already at another break. We're going to come back from this break. And here's the thing. He was there that day, but you did leave before things got into madness,
Yes.
right? I say madness. It wasn't like total madness. There were a lot of people who walked around taking selfies inside the Capitol. But before people began going inside, you and your wife headed out. Am I right?
We did. Yep.
Yeah. All right. We'll take that when we get back. But we'll also talk about the aftermath. What's it like knowing that people everywhere are being hunted for a place that you were at? Having a fascinating conversation. I think it's fascinating. I hope some of y'all do too. I look back at January 6th and I think, good gosh, a day that has been like bandied about by the left as being like nearly the downfall of our entire country, like life as we knew it, like cats and dogs living together. I mean, it was chaos, apparently, according to the left. And yet, were there things that happened that were wrong? Yes. But was it madness? Was it one of those things that should go down in infamy? Not to the extent that they. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. All right, so we're back for round 2 of JP on Sports. This section is called the 2-minute warning. I've got a timer and a buzzer. First 2-minute, go.
I guess Vandy has got its swagger back.
Vandy?
Well, I'll say swagger back. It's gotten swagger finally, I guess. I don't know if they've ever had swagger before this. But Diego Pavio, which is the quarterback for Vandy, he's been making the rounds this week because he went on Feinbaum and very confidently said they expect to win a national championship this year at Vandy. And even Paul Feinbaum there at the moment was he was trying to be nice in a nice and subtle way, kind of say, oh, really? You think Vanderbilt's going to win a national championship? But I think that's listen, I don't know if Vandy's going to win a national championship, but clearly Vandy's got some mojo finally. And they did beat Alabama. This is Alabama's fault, and we gave them the mojo because now they think they can beat anybody in the world because, we lost to them in Nashville last year. However, he made a good point in the Feinbaum interview. He says NIL has even the playing field in college football. Anybody?
Oh, that's a point.
Any team can have a shot. There's no gimme games anymore in college football. The days of Alabama, could start their second string and just beat Vanderbilt are over. You got to bring your A game, especially in the SEC with every team. So who knows? Maybe.
And there's some rich boosters at Vandy.
Oh yeah. Listen, if Vandy can go on a run, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they can make a run and make the playoffs, maybe. And who knows? Maybe the playoff becomes like the March Madness of just mayhem, and anybody can beat anybody. But I do think it's interesting to see Pavia, somebody in Vanderbilt with some confidence and swagger up there. Who knows? Maybe Vanderbilt not being the just the joke of the SEC anymore.
So gone are the days when Vandy is everybody's homecoming game, right?
Yes, exactly. Where everybody said, the SEC is the best conference in college football. Well, no, there's Vandy. Sorry, it looks like Vandy could be a player in the SEC now, and according to Pavia, be a national championship contender. So who knows? But to say the least, like I said, I guess Vanderbilt's not a game anybody can just count as a cupcake anymore.
There you go. You're on it. But I got to ask you real quick: do you think Diego is up for any awards? He does play well. I mean, the guy's got some.
He's built for that offense. Who knows? He could be a dark horse Heisman candidate. I'm not willing to say he's going to win it yet, but who knows? He may find himself in New York.
What year is he in, by the way?
I think this is last year's senior year. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry I dragged you along. That's right. Start the timer. Go.
We got the playoffs for golf. The PGA Tour playoffs have started this week, and they do their playoffs in a 3-week sequence to where so that you get points based off where you are in the rankings. So like Scotty Scheffler is going to go into the last round with 10 strokes, guy below him 9, guy below him 8, so forth. But the first tournament started this weekend, and there's been a lot of controversy. People are upset because Rory McIlroy decided not to play in this tournament this weekend, and people have thrown their arms up in the air, say this is supposed to be our poster boy. During the Live PGA wars, Rory was very vocal to staying with PGA and was, like I said, kind of PGA's poster boy. And now he's just kicking his feet up, not playing in the first round of the playoffs. What in the world's going on with that? And he's automatically qualifying for the second round because he's the third best player in the world. I sit back and I say, look, if you're the third best player in the world, you can kind of do whatever you want at this point. If Scotty Scheffler didn't play in the first round, I don't think many people would have been upset about it. But I think it's just the fact that Rory McIlroy, he was kind of a controversial figure in the golf world, PGA world. He just got the career Grand Slam this year. Finally, he won the Masters this year. He'll be there next week. I think golf fans just need to relax a little bit here. But who knows? Maybe. Look, if it's going to hurt him, it's going to hurt him on the golf course. If he comes back next week and took a week off and now he's, got to knock the rust off again, then he's going to be the one that has to pay for it. But I just think everybody needs to relax a little bit.
I'm sorry. What was his comment for staying out? But what did he say?
I think it's just rest. Why would you? If you're automatically going to qualify for the next round and you may be a little tired, beaten up. He played a great British Open. He didn't win, but he made a great run for it. So I think, he may just need some rest. Who knows? Scotty Scheffler is playing in it, who's currently the number 1 in the world, but he's quite a bit back in the leaderboard. I believe Tommy Fleetwood is currently at the top of the leaderboard there. So I think it's just rest, but can you blame him? I mean, he deserves it, I guess.
He's got that green jacket. All right. Resetting the clock. That's 2 of them. 2-minute warning starts again. Go.
Well, this is a fun story for if there's any WWE fans out there. So, this is John Cena's last run. This is his retirement tour. We just had SummerSlam last week where John Cena gave up the belt. There's a lot of talk about if John Cena was going to retire as champion, but he looks like he's not going to. He lost the championship match to Cody Rhodes. However, the night did not end with that because big news, Brock Lesnar is officially back in WWE. He made a comeback entrance, and now we're going to have a John Cena versus Brock Lesnar rivalry once again. That was one of my favorite rivalries growing up, was John Cena, Brock Lesnar. First of all, Brock Lesnar, the alpha male of the human species, period, the end. If the aliens came down and had their guy and said, bring me your best, to fight my guy, we're sending Brock Lesnar every day of the week. Brock Lesnar is the alpha male of the human nation. I mean, he's a UFC heavyweight champion, played in the NFL, WWE superstar. He's done it all. But like I said, this retirement tour for John Cena, they've been bringing out all the back, they've been pulling on the heartstrings of the WWE fans like myself who grew up watching John. They had a Randy Orton, John Cena rematch of the rivalry brought back this year. CM Punk, John Cena rivalry brought back this year. And now we're about to get Brock Lesnar versus John Cena again before he retires and goes off into the sunset. And it's perfect. Triple H is nailing the John Cena's retirement tour. So I'm looking forward to watch it. There's also been a lot of people upset because Brock Lesnar is kind of tied up in a little controversy with the WWE. I think he's named in the same lawsuit that Vince McMahon is having. Just guys, come on, we got to have fun with this. Be happy the fact Brock Lesnar is back. Like I said, the alpha male of human species is back. You got to appreciate it.
But how old are they coming in with walkers? I mean, how old are these guys? They've been doing this for a while.
Brock Lesnar is, let me see, he is 48 years old.
Yeah.
John Cena, I think, is about 42, 44, something like that. These guys, man, they're studs. But listen, steroids can take you that far, I guess.
Take it. All right. We got time for one more? What do you think?
We got a little bit of time.
All right. I'm starting the clock. Just go with it. Take what you can.
I got to address this story. Okay. There's a massive story in the world of WNBA, I won't say what is necessarily getting thrown on the court, but there's objects being thrown on the court.
Sexual devices are getting thrown on the court.
Yes, there is. And it is.
And they're green.
I hate to say this, but this may be the biggest story in the WNBA history. I hate to say it. We have betting lines. For this past week, the betting lines for if there was going to be another one of these objects thrown on the court, more people bet on that than the games themselves this past week.
Oh God!
It is outstanding. I think we've had 4 total this week. And now, listen, I'm not encouraging anybody to do this, because players can get hurt. However, the WNBA coaches and players that are them acting so upset about the story and that people think it's funny, I think it's just fueling the story even more.
But now they're trying to ban people from bringing bags and everything.
Well, there was a bag ban last night, and somehow somebody still got it in to throw it on the court. So I don't know what's going on, but it's hilarious. Anybody who's acting like it's not a funny story they're just lying to themselves. But I'm not encouraging anybody to do it, but it is funny.
So you got a minute and 10 talking about throwing sex toys on the WNBA court. It's bringing more notoriety to the WNBA though than ever.
It is.
Oh, all right. That's JP on Sports. By the way, brought to you by Inspire Advisors, and I'll tell you more about Inspire Advisors here momentarily. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Be in my opinion. And it certainly was not an insurrection because there was no attempt to overthrow government. That's why nobody was charged with insurrection. That's the part of the kicker there. But I'm in studio right now with David Robinson. Let's spend a couple more minutes here, David. And by the way, I got a question that I'll lead off with from one of the listeners, David at Bucky's. That's him. He's David at Bucky's.
Yes.
But David at Bucky's says, ask David Robinson, what was the purpose or the plan once they reached the Capitol? So you guys are leaving the speech area. You're walking the 20 minutes down to the Capitol building. What was everybody thinking was going to happen when they got there? I mean, what was the plan?
More speeches.
Okay.
So that as far as I know, that was the plan, would be more speeches and just have a peaceful protest of,
like stand there with the flags and say we want it back.
Yes, keep being patriotic and showing that we're here that we don't agree with the vote.
Okay, all right. And then you got there, and tension began to rise. You and I were talking off the air about what it feels like when you can feel the mood of a crowd begin to change.
Yes,
and you did feel the mood of the crowd begin to change.
I did when Vice President Mike Pence when I kept hearing that over and over from
He
people,
did not. He certified the vote. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't do it. That's what I heard. He didn't do it.
He didn't do it. He didn't. Yeah. He didn't.
People were hoping that he wouldn't. He would. I don't know what that is.
He would not certify the vote.
Right.
Yeah, but he chose to.
Right.
All right. So that happened, and the mood of the crowd, the murmuring began.
Yes. Yes.
And then you said earlier you saw like a group of folks saying, "Follow us. We're going inside."
I did.
All right. Was Capitol Police anywhere around at this point?
Not at this point. There were a few you could see on the steps and around the border of the Capitol, and then maybe 15 minutes after I saw that line of people that were saying, let's go in, and they were pushing through the crowd. It felt like they were being a little bit more aggressive, exactly, than the rest of the crowd. And I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes later, so I saw the smoke grenade. And
oh, really?
Yes. And
was it tear gas or smoke? What was it?
I'm not sure. It wasn't close enough for me to tear up, but
yeah,
it was probably 200 yards away, probably a good 5-iron. But that was also maybe I need to watch my back with my wife here and get ready to go.
Okay. Didn't you say during the break too, flashbang grenades?
I thought so. I heard the noise and saw the smoke. So it could have been from the gas, or it could have been two different things. But it felt to me like they were trying to deter that line of people that was saying, let's go in.
Now I know you've told me already that you actually left at this pretty soon around this time, but at what point did you decide it's time to go? When did you look at your wife and say, honey, we're out of here? Or
yes.
What's the story there?
I looked at my wife and my uncle and I was like, hey, do we need to go? Is this the cue? And after we got that alert from the emergency system about the National Guard, I'm like, I want to make sure the trains don't get shut down, because if it gets bad, they're going to shut the trains down. And that was, not that I wouldn't have minded camping out in DC, for a couple of days protesting, but I don't know if I want my wife there in the middle of all that chaos. If it would have transpired like the rest of the year, 2020.
Did you know anybody that went inside?
I met a father and his daughter. Somewhere out Midwest. I'm not sure what city, but we met at the train station before getting on, and she was a teenager, and they were peaceful. I'm not sure why they went in, but it felt like they acted like it was their American right to go in peacefully. I'm not sure if that's allowed during that day, or if that makes sense.
The videos the news showed us over and over again were people, some of them were doing things they didn't need to be doing, pushing back on police officers, forcing their way through doors. And then yet later on, 2 years later, when Tucker Carlson got all of the footage, we saw a lot of people having the doors opened for them like the guy, the shaman, was actually being escorted around to different rooms. And it was just the weirdest dynamic to see the actual true videos and go, wait a minute, I thought everybody was violent.
Right.
They're walking around taking selfies and laughing.
Yeah.
And some Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This one, I mean to say, goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And then that's just the radio. Oh, by the way, there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web. All you live streamers, people who listen to the show online can actually watch it. You can see inside the studio. I'm talking about people going to X and YouTube and Facebook and our website, rightside.media.org. And then, oh, by the way, a bunch of y'all podcast the show too after the fact, just catching up on things after you've missed it first time. But listen, everywhere you are that you pick up this show, please understand we know and we appreciate it more than you could possibly imagine. You're the reason why we do what we do, and you are much loved. So thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to have to. Oh, you know what? I got to talk about Inspire Advisors. Let me do that. The sponsor for you every single week on JP on Sports is our friends at Inspire Advisors. So Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors are pretty cool. Listen, a lot of y'all in this audience I know are doing what you can to set aside for your retirement or just to increase your portfolio. And you also look at it going, and all you do is you can hope that the money you're investing in a company is not going to a company that doesn't even stand for the things you stand for. Well, Inspire Advisors, they are absolutely brilliant at not only helping you increase your bottom line, but doing it with what's called biblically responsible investing. BRI, biblically responsible investing. It's a whole thing. They can literally help you to assess the companies, decide if that company matches up with your principles, the things you care about, and that they're not full of wokeness. And that's where your investing goes. Inspire Advisors. Listen, they're glad to meet with you, give you opportunity to sort of be assessed and see where you are, even transfer your portfolio over if you need to. They'll give you advice. They'll teach you how to do it yourself. All said and done, you can go to their website. That's Inspire Advisors, www.moneypatternwealth.com. That's moneypatternwealth.com. And Paul Breyer and his team would love to talk to you. Check them out. Inspire Advisors, sponsors of the JP on Sports segment. All right, I got to talk about something for a few minutes that is in the news. It's in the news because Alabama's in the news again. It's in the news because Texas is still in the news. So first of all, Texas Democrats. Texas Democrats are a goat rodeo. They are an absolute goat rodeo. You can even go look up the words goat rodeo and see what you get. But goat rodeo is what they are. Texas Democrats right now are apparently going to be holding a press conference, if they haven't already, with Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi. Oh boy, just gonna stand up there and talk about how brave they are because they ran away. So if you're not familiar with the storyline, redistricting. Redistricting is when the legislature of each state, it's a matter of both federal and state law. Federal law says it has to be done using certain formulas, but then state law is as to who does it, like whether it's legislature, what the timing is, and yada, yada. Anyway, the bottom line is a mix of federal and state law governs when they draw the lines to decide how many members of Congress you're going to have, how many members of your Alabama Senate or House you're going to have, same for every state. Well, y'all, Texas decided to go ahead. You know what? I think we'll just do an extra one. What? Caught everybody off guard. Kind of a novel thing. Usually you do it the year after the census. So like when I was in the Alabama Senate, we got elected in 2010. We took the Republican majority forward. We had never had a Republican majority in the state of Alabama in like 136 straight years. Suddenly we did. And then we got to draw the lines. And the Democrats hated it, but they didn't run away. But in Texas, not so much. Texas decided they're going to run away. It's like a bad scene from a Monty Python movie.
I should have pulled the run away. So I should have.
I used that on one of my tweets a couple of times. But yeah, they did. They ran away. Most of them, we believe, are in Illinois. And there's talk about, Senator John Cornyn, who's got a hard race right now with Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, running against him for the U.S. Senate. Cornyn says that he has now called upon Kash Patel at FBI to help locate the renegade runaway Democrats. And he says Kash Patel is going to do it. I don't know what that even means. All I know is this. The real story is they ran away. Reapportionment happens, and it's supposed to happen. What Texas did that's got everybody kind of freaked out, what Texas did is they said, hey, usually you do it every 10 years, but we checked the law. It just says you have to do it at least after the census. It doesn't say you can't do more. So the theory is they could do it every year if they wanted to. Now they won't, but they could, as the interpretation of the law is read. Now, every state's going to differ slightly, but the reality is Texas has decided they're going to pursue it. And so they're doing what's known as a mid-cycle redistricting. Democrats are livid. Democrats ran off. What's that line from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? We're going to RUNNOFT. I love that show, by the way, that movie.
I've not seen it. Sorry.
Okay, see now, I worry for you, JP.
I'm sorry.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Classic. Anyway, so they RUNNOFT'd and they're hiding out in Illinois, which has the most gerrymandered districts anybody's ever seen. I mean, it's nuts to look at the way they drew their lines for congressional representation. Okay, now, having said all that, Alabama's had its own problems. Every time the Democrats don't like something, they challenge it in court, and they were successful at challenging the last go-round. So in 2020, we had a census. In 2021, we had a plan put forward and approved by the legislature, majority Republican. The interesting dynamic is Alabama has been under what's known as the VRA, the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act mandates that there be a certain measure of minority representation that allows them to have a assurance that they will elect someone of their minority status. Okay, well, so you mean we got to consider race? Well, hey, don't get too racial. What does that mean? Well, this has been the thing that we've lived under now for years. The Voting Rights Act has been almost to the point of oppressive. Like what's the standard? Well, the standard in Alabama has long been what wound up being 7 members of Congress, one of whom was a Democrat, because Terry Sewell was in a district where you could imagine, because of the base of the population, the majority being black, that there was going to be a majority black population. And since black communities still typically today tend to lean Democrat more than Republican, the vote count wound up going Democrat, hence Terry Sewell. And then we drew the 2021 plan. And the 2021 plan was immediately challenged. Why? Because you didn't consider race enough. What do you mean? I thought back in 2011, you challenged it because you said we considered too much race. Well, that was back then. What is the standard? All right. I say all that to say, news story just broke. This has been under a challenge now for years. We wound up having the court intervene and draw our districts for us because Alabama had decided we did our job and we don't intend to change it again because you don't give us good, clear guidance. And so the court said, fine, we'll draw it for you. The court ruled today that we're stuck with the plan they drew. The appeal was finally, it was thrown out. The appeal's over. The appeal, which was filed by Alabama Secretary of State Wes Allen, other legislators in June of this year, the same panel of judges determined that the new map offered by the Alabama legislature violated both the Voting Rights Act, again, and the 14th Amendment, which requires states to provide equal protection under the law to all persons. I look at this and say, how in the world do we ever stop being, quote unquote, racially motivated if we're forced to be racially motivated? It's only when it suits them. That's when we stop. It's just like when it suits them. All said and done, the news just broke that this morning, the judges did rule Alabama is sticking with what it's got. We probably won't draw that plan again until we get to the 2030 census, after which in 2031, we'll draw a new plan, which technically is only 6 years away. So I guess we're stuck with Shamari Figures as a congressperson right now.
Well, I just got to say, last night when this topic was brought up when you were on CNN, it kind of amazed me, like either they didn't get it or their unwillingness to talk about it when this topic came up, and you were relaying the fact, like, the process of how they go about redistricting is according to each state's legislature. And for some reason, the moderator, can't remember his name again, that he didn't quite understand. I think he thought you were saying that redistricting as a whole, or the concept as a whole, is to the state. It's like, well, the Constitution says it.
Yeah, he didn't get it.
Yeah, it's just like whoop, right over the head of like the Texas, and this whole redistricting conversation is up to each state legislature. And I know you even brought up the point of when y'all took the state house, how you decided to do it a certain way that they didn't like, the Democrats didn't like. But I wonder if the left even understands that it is well, they do when it's like Illinois,
sure,
But I guess with the when the Republicans play their game and decide we don't actually have to only do it at every 10-year mark, now it's a problem, and they understand.
Yeah.
So I like I said, they could be that they do understand it, that they're just not happy about it.
Well, elections have consequences, like I also said on the show.
Yes.
And they have. And if Republicans have the majority, guess what? The Republicans get to draw the map, and that's what Democrats in Texas are freaking out about. And here's your solution: go elect more Democrats, and you could draw the lines.
Yes.
And for 136 straight years in Alabama, Democrats drew the lines. And then all of a sudden in 2011, we got to draw the lines. And guess what? They didn't like it, but I'll give them props. Alabama Democrats didn't run off to Illinois
and
try to break quorum. It was absolutely, it's the most asinine thing I've ever seen. All right, I got a bunch of text messages I did not even get to. Let me get a couple of them before I go to the break. Roughly Ann from Huntsville. Roughly Ann from Huntsville says, Phil, we worry about you. You haven't experienced the best, most hilarious, joyful, loving, compassionate SpongeBob.
Thank you.
Who brought up SpongeBob?
Well, it's because you said you worried about me. I haven't seen where we're at that. You haven't seen the greatest cartoon ever made.
But it's called SpongeBob.
I mean, you're not the target age, for it, obviously, but I just trust me, it's the greatest.
Okay. Lynn from Tanner, Alabama says this is totally off. Okay, it's totally off subject. Then why are we bringing it up? It's everything everybody's talking about at the office. Everybody keeps saying that Donald Trump cannot run for president again. But what if everyone wrote his name in the other box? Could we still have him as president then? Right now, the law of the land is, my understanding is he cannot. Some say, hey, it's only if it's consecutive. It's only in 2 4-year consecutive terms. I'm pretty sure that the argument is going to wind up failing if that's the case. But I don't think we're going to see a massive write-in. I think what's going to happen, I think J.D. Vance is going to wind up being a top-tier candidate. And I think we're going to have, I would not be a bit surprised to see a Vance-Rubio ticket, which I would be stoked about, just to be honest with you, as things stand right now. Mike from Florence, Alabama says, what's the betting line on how many times you can get a sex toy into the center logo?
We've opened up the floodgates.
This is not good. This is not good at all. Dave from Capshaw says, Phil, this morning I went to your X account. Oh, yeah. And he saw a bunch of nasty comments from people who didn't like the fact that I was on or CNN. I guess that's their safe place and they don't want me there.
Yeah, there was a couple people that watched you and came in and onto your X account.
That's, you know what? If they're hating on me, I'm doing something right. That's what I'm saying. What else we got real quick? I guess that's about it. I'll go ahead and take a break. I just realized what time it was. Take that break. We'll come right back. We're heading into the last break of the day on a Friday afternoon. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And selfies with the guards.
Right. Peaceful protest.
So I guess, one of my points in this is, were there people who did some things they didn't need to be doing? Yeah. And some of them probably did some things that they need to go to jail for. But by God, 1,500 people didn't.
No.
That's me not having been there. All right. All right. So you guys left, but I got to ask you, the word got out that the FBI, this was like priority number one. There was no other mission in life for the FBI at that point that seemed to take precedent over this. And I'm talking about every field office was being tasked for what we know. The January 6th commission was stood up. They were checking cell phone records to see whose numbers were bouncing off of cell phone towers. We're finding out stories about people who were arrested who were merely present and didn't even go inside. One of the guys who was jailed who wasn't even there that day, but they believed he was an inciter of people who were. Inciter. That being said, did you ever have any concerns about the FBI coming and knocking on your door?
I did, multiple times. I try to be low key as much as possible, but I didn't share anything really until today. As far as pictures and videos, this stuff that you're seeing, no one has seen other than if I showed them in person. But I was very low key about showing anybody, even friends and family, because if I show somebody, maybe they're going to be, tracked and traced and get their door knocked on by the FBI. I've got a family, 3 kids and a wife, and I want to provide for them and not be taken away for a year or years and leave them stranded. And yes, I was nervous multiple times, but they never contacted me, and I'm pretty sure I've got footage that no one's ever seen.
Well, that being said, you did find out later on that Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed that day.
Yes.
How was that, knowing that someone who you stood there and talked to was the only person who was actually killed on scene?
It broke my heart and made me feel grateful that we didn't go in. But it broke my heart. I mean, she was a serviceman and Air Force, and it didn't make any sense. But yes, she got riled up. I mean, she was at a protest, but was
she armed?
Not that I know of. No.
Yeah.
I believe there was a lot of people there that was armed that could have used their weapons if they wanted to. you know, if I've been to a pro-life rally, I've been to the Tea Party rally, and I think I've seen 1 million people there. There was 1 million people there, and I would say half of them were carrying.
Yeah.
At this rally,
like Second Amendment carrying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they were there. It was to protect themselves or protect the president. You know, it wasn't for, you know, to riot.
Did you ever know anybody who wound up being questioned or even jailed in the aftermath of January 6th?
No.
Nobody you've run across that said like, yeah, man, the FBI came knocking on my door and make sure you stay low key. I mean, nothing like that.
There's been a few. I've ran into more people recently because I've been a little bit more open about me being there. And so I have ran into a few that was there that day, maybe went inside. But I'm just now being, you know, I'm just now telling people about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big deal to be able to just talk about it and be open about what's going on.
What are your thoughts? And we got about 2 or 3 minutes here, but what are your thoughts about, like, of course, you've heard me talk about it already. I don't want to poison the well, so to speak. I imagine you've got your own thoughts about the way the January 6th Commission handled things, the way the media handled things. In your opinion, was the narrative that was being put out the same as the narrative you saw that day?
No, not even close.
Okay.
No.
So, how so?
It was a peaceful protest. There was, with that many people, they could have taken over whatever they wanted. Honestly, if that's what their intentions were. Their intentions were to be there to support our country, to be patriotic, and to say we don't believe in the vote, the count, but not to instill violence. That was never. I never had that feeling there from everyone that I was around. Yeah, people were stirred up. There was guys climbing trees so they could get a better view of Trump or to hear better early in the morning before we went to the Capitol. But they were just boys. They were just stirred up and needed to do something because we were waiting, and they've been there so early. But there was nothing that said, "Hey, we're going to go in here and create violence on the people that are making decisions for our country."
Yeah. Well. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Hey, John from Huntsville's got the grades in. The daily grades from John, they're like part of the show, man. JP gets an A double plus for his amazing performance. However, he should have played the GOAT sound effect, which means today's co-winners with the perfect A triple plus are obviously Brian Dawson and the magnificent Phil Williams, and for their equally brilliant performances. Congratulations. Have a good weekend. We get graded every day by John from Huntsville, and you apparently are co-winner today. Welcome to it.
Amazing.
It's. I would see if you'd played that earlier. The screaming goat sound is one of our favorite sound effects. Yeah. All right, I'll tell you what. Let me just jump on the phones because the founder of the SpongeBob fan club is on the line. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm eating at the crab. I'm eating at the Krusty Krab. You'll probably have to go to the chum bucket and get your meal.
I'm just disturbed that you know that. I am just disturbed that you know that. That's just wild.
I've got kids.
I guess my kids came up in a different. My kids were like all Power Rangers and all that kind of stuff. There was SpongeBob in my house. Well, of course, we did have Barney the purple dinosaur. So what can I say? There's that.
Oh, I OD'd on Barney. My daughter was Barney-fied. I had to have everything Barney, and it was I love you.
Oh, there you go. I'm gonna be singing that stupid song the rest of the weekend now. Where are you right now on the road, dude? Where are you?
I am almost to Goodlettsville, doing about 3 miles an hour. So I'm almost out of town, but not quite.
Well, okay. So you've made it through, but you're past. What's that one building you said like the one of the big the bat tower, or what is it called? The bat signal.
AT&T Batman building.
That's
got
what it is.
Big spires on. Well, you've seen it before. Every time you come into Nashville, that's first thing you see when you're coming down the road.
Well, tell you what, we got a couple minutes here, but tell me what you think about today's topics. Where are you on all this stuff?
I think I'm more talking about your showing on CNN last night. I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for dialing in, man. So did I hold my own?
But now, who was the black gentleman there? I can't remember what he is.
Yeah, Van Latham's his name. He's a podcaster. I think sports is one of his big genres, but yeah, that was him.
Well, his name says some kind of learning center or something, I think. I can't remember what he was associated with. I kept thinking, this guy, I hope this guy's not teaching anybody anything. He's so cute. The looks on your face a couple times there showed just pretty much said it all.
Yeah, that's it was a fairly animated show. In fact, I had somebody text in afterwards and say that the guest host, because the usual host was out, the guest host didn't moderate at all. It was more like a bar fight sometimes.
Yeah, but I liked him better than I did her because he kind of stayed out of it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But I tell you what, though, you know what's funny? When the cameras were off, as much as we were like going at each other on screen, I will say that was a very enjoyable group. Everybody in there was so personable. We were yucking it up. And the guy you're talking about, Van Latham, he was a hoot, man.
Yeah. Well, it was actually pretty even last night because, I mean, I thought there was like 2.5 conservatives on there because the one guy that did used to do the PD specials and everything, he seemed like he was kind of down the middle, I thought.
Yeah, I think he prided himself on that. And I think he had one too many Red Bulls before we started too. He got really jacked up there a couple of times during the show.
Yeah, he got excited, didn't he?
Well, I'm probably going back maybe as early as next week, but at least I'm scheduled for the week after. So I'll keep you posted, dude.
Okay. But well, I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't do what I told you to do, though.
Which part was that?
Oh, I think you should have interviewed the man on the street and see who voted for Zohan Mondani and ask them why. I mean, that would have been great live TV, or at least good TV, I believe, to see what kind of answers you would have come up with on the streets of New York.
I'm going to send JP up to do man on the street interviews sometime. That's what we're going to do.
Hey, I'm for it.
JP, we're going to shut this place down. You're going with me next time. You'll do man on the street while I'm up there doing the show.
Hey, I'm all good.
We'll get her done, and we'll say y'all, and they won't know what we're saying.
Well, that's how Waters World started and everything, basically. So yeah, it might
That's
turn
true.
into something. You never.
That's true. That's true. Water started off working for Bill O'Reilly, I think, just doing the man on the street stuff. All right, dude. The music's playing. That means the preacher got to quit preaching. But you be safe on the road. We'll talk to you again on Monday. All right.
All right. You all have a good one. Shout out to the class of 1980 for my class reunion tomorrow.
Hey, there you go. All right, brother. We'll see you. All right, listen, folks, I tell you all the time, but it is absolutely true. There are more of us than there are them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you Monday.